Chapter 12:10. The next day, Chen Zhao went to the beach construction site. When Chen Zhao arrived at the construction site, the workers all greeted him. In America, construction workers were all high-income people. Their annual salary ranged from tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars. Even a normal worker could get an annual salary of 70 to 80,000. Hearing that Chen Zhao was here, Fellwood hurried out of the construction site to welcome him. "Mr. Chen, you're here." To Fellwood, Chen Zhao was a true god of fortune. Chen Zhao had given him all the big projects that his company was currently working on. Now, another project was delivered to his door. How could he not like Chen Zhao? Chen Zhao stood on the beach and looked at the cliff in the distance. The flat top of the cliff had been cut off, and a large portion had been excavated. Because Chen Zhao wanted a villa, he had to excavate a large portion of the cliff's rock stratum. However, he hadn't started construction yet. He'd only completed the foundation. He also had to pave the road and clean the beach. Fellwood kept explaining the progress of the project to Chen Zhao. "By the way, Mr. Chen, don't you think we should give this beach a new name?" "Let's call it Moon Beach," Chen Zhao said casually. Chen Zhao really didn't have much talent in naming. This was the only name that popped up in his mind. He might as well use it. After that, Chen Zhao and Fellwood discussed the construction of the new brewery. Fellwood wanted to continue working with Chen Zhao. Thus, Fellwood Cisco gave Chen Zhao a good price for the beer factory. Basically, he didn't make much money. Of course, a project didn't make any money on the surface. There were no direct benefits, but there were still some benefits. For example, some architects and engineers designed and built famous skyscrapers, not only for actual income, but also for fame. Then, Chen Zhao gave Denver's contact information to Fellwood. "Mr. Fellwood, go do your work. I'll walk around by myself." "Okay, then I won't keep you company." Chen Zhao wandered around Bright Moon Beach alone. He was looking forward to his new home. Just then, he received a call from Dell. "Hey, Chen, are you free?" "What?" "Master wants you to come over." "Master? Oh, are you at Sister Ching's place?" "Yes, I'm at the motel." "All right, I'll head over now." When Chen Zhao arrived at the motel, Ethan was crossing his legs. Seeing Chen Zhao, he pointed behind him. "Behind. Let's talk later." With that, he went to the back of the motel. When Chen Zhao went to the backyard, he saw Dell holding a long sword and standing in a pine pose. Li Qing stood at the side. Chen Zhao went up to greet her. "Sister Qing." "Mr. Chen, you're here." "Auntie Qing, I heard from Dell that you called me." "What's up?" Dell learned the demon-piercing finger. It's a small spell that can subdue demons. My request to him is to be able to see through your green clothes cloud. "Mr. Chen, you don't mind, do you?" I don't mind." Dell walked up to Chen Zhao. "Chen, don't underestimate me. I can pierce wood with a finger now." Chen Zhao nodded. "You can try it on me now." "Chen, I'm serious. Don't be careless." "I'm not careless. Go ahead," Chen Zhao said as he activated the green clothes cloud. The green clothes cloud used magic as its source. Normal people couldn't see it, but Dell was a warlock now, so he could see a green barrier covering Chen Zhao's body. "Master, when can I learn the green clothes cloud?" "You can learn it whenever you want, but whether you can master it or not is another matter." Li Qing only hoped for a successor now. Even though Dell's talent was mediocre, she still taught him carefully. Li Qing didn't have the same rules as before. She didn't have to hold back when she taught a disciple, causing it to be lost in the end. Also, no matter if it was a domestic sect or a foreign master-disciple inheritance, they all had a common characteristic. When a master taught a disciple, he would randomly label the disciple. If the disciple killed a bug, the disciple might be seen as violent. To put it bluntly, the master just didn't like the disciple. Could stomping a bug to death prove that he was a cruel person? This caused many disciples to go down the wrong path because of the master's prejudice. To put it bluntly, it was the master's own prejudice. As for Li Qing, the green-clothed sect was about to be destroyed. If she still stuck to the old rules, she'd probably bring the green-clothed sect's inheritance to her grave. Chin, be careful. Del had tried the magic piercing finger's power. Just now, he'd used it to pierce through a small tree. Right now, his fingertips glowed with green light. Chen Zhao could feel the faint magic power on Del. Chen Zhao estimated Del's magic. It should be around 20 to 30. This amount of mana was already very weak. Using the magic piercing finger was also difficult. Del said, "I'm coming." With that, he suddenly pointed at Chen Zhao's chest. Crack! Del's finger was broken. Ah! Del clutched his finger and held in pain. Chin, why is your chest so hard? It's because you haven't mastered the magic piercing finger. Li Qing shook her head. Del's magic piercing finger didn't even cause a ripple in Chen Zhao's chingy mist. It was obvious how weak it was. The three sat to the side and Chen Zhao straightened Del's bones. Master, can Chen's chingy mist stop bullets? That depends on your magic. Even if you can learn chingy mist now, you can only barely stop bullets. You can't completely block bullets. Mr. Chen should be able to block bullets. Li Qing's eyes were very accurate. Indeed, when Chen Zhao first learned chingy mist, he couldn't completely block bullets either. But now, Chen Zhao's body was strong enough. Even without the chingy armor, he could block bullets with his body alone. Master, the hotel opens tomorrow. Are you coming? Del asked. No, I still have work, Li Qing said. Li Qing said, this 8 trigrams mirror is my gift to you. Hang it at the front door of the hotel. Thank you, Master. Del looked at Chen Zhao. Chin, I don't need to invite you. I told you last time. Chapter 12:11. Del didn't know much about Chen Zhao's strength. Li Qing, on the other hand, knew something about him. But she didn't know that Chen Zhao had already reached Shangqing, which was clear heaven and earth. Even with her understanding of Chen Zhao in the past, Del couldn't compare to the ultimate transformation plane. Del's talent was average. It would be good if he could learn a few spells. Plus, Li Qing was old and didn't have as much energy as young people, so she could only teach Del. If Del wanted to continue cultivating in the future, he would have to rely on Chen Zhao's guidance. The next day, Chen Zhao arrived at the hotel that Del and Risvar had opened early in the morning. But he wasn't here for the opening ceremony. He was really not interested in this kind of ceremony. He was here to help Del see if there was anything wrong with the hotel. After cleaning last time, there were no more problems with the hotel. Chen Zhao was mainly here to reassure Del. In the past, Del had been suspicious about the strange powers and gods, but now he was a warlock. Of course, in the West, he was called a wizard. At noon, the hotel was filled with guests. Del and Risvar didn't have time to accompany Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao didn't have anything to do here, so he sat on the rooftop. There was a huge swimming pool and bar on the rooftop. Today was the opening ceremony, but the rooftop wasn't open. Chen Zhao still liked the air here. The banquet restaurant below was filled with people. Chen Zhao really didn't like that atmosphere. Del and Risvar didn't invite all upper-class guests. There were also some opportunists. Chen Zhao went inside to get a glass of wine and stood there for 3 minutes. 2 groups of people came over to test Chen Zhao's identity or ask for investments. Chen Zhao was speechless. After knowing that Chen Zhao was just an ordinary employee here, they immediately changed their attitude. The environment was too uncomfortable. The only people Chen Zhao knew, Del and Risvar, couldn't stay with him forever. The sea breeze blew from the south to the north. It was very convincing. One had to admit that after the change in the environment, the air became fresher. As long as there were no problems with the management, Chen Zhao was sure that business would be booming and money would come in. Just then, a woman came up to the rooftop. She was dressed in black business attire and had her hair in a ponytail. She was tall and slender, and she was wearing sky-high heels. She was holding a walkie-talkie in her hand. When the woman saw someone by the pool, she was stunned for a moment. Then he strode to Qin Zhao's side. "Sir, this place is not open yet. Please leave." Lying on the sun lounger, Qin Zhao moved his sunglasses up slightly and glanced at the woman. "I'm not a guest here." "That's the staff here? Hundreds of people in the hotel are busy. And you came here to slack off? Which department are you from? Who's your superior? I'm not an employee here, either. Are you trying to tell me that you're a guest here?" "Sir, the hotel hasn't officially opened yet, so we don't have any guests. If you can't tell me who you are, I can only call security. You better inform your two bosses first." "Oh, get me a glass of whiskey." "Thanks." Qin Zhao yawned lazily. When the house in Bright Moon Beach was built, he would be able to enjoy the sea breeze every day. The woman looked at Qin Zhao with sparkling eyes, somewhat hesitant. She wasn't sure of Qin Zhao's identity. If he was a guest invited by her two bosses, shouldn't he be in the banquet hall now? But she didn't have Dell and Risfar's contact information. She was only the hotel's customer service manager, not the general manager. There were still a few big shots above her. Plus, if Chen Zhao was really Dell and Risfar's friend, she might offend Chen Zhao because of this. "Okay, sir. There are still many facilities that aren't open yet. I hope you won't wander around." With that, the woman turned and left. As the customer service manager of a super 5-star hotel, Molly knew how to control herself. Otherwise, she wouldn't have gotten this job. The hotel wasn't open yet, but it was very busy today. There were many things that she had to deal with. She didn't have time to waste with Chen Zhao here. "Miss Molly, there are 2 people in the lobby. They say that they're hotel guests." "Hotel guests?" Molly was confused. "I'll come down now." Molly hurried downstairs. She saw a beautiful pregnant woman with a cute girl in her arms. "Hello, Mississippi." Molly walked over. "How can I help you?" "Your boss invited me here. He told me to stay here for a few days and experience it." "So it's a guest experience." Molly immediately understood. After the hotel opened, they couldn't let the guests stay immediately. There had to be an experience period, the hotel experience and service experience. Usually, the guest experience was the hotel boss's friend. "Okay, please wait a moment," Molly said. "Can I use your driver's license?" Of course. Molly found it quickly, but she also found information about other residents who were experiencing it. The Asian was also a guest experience. No wonder, Molly thought to herself. That Asian seems to be living with them. They should be husband and wife or boyfriend and girlfriend. "Excuse me, is this Mr. Chen Zhao Feilai's? He's my boyfriend." "Is he in the hotel now?" "Yes, he's on the rooftop." "Okay, thank you." After Feilai checked in, Molly had the waiter bring Feilai's luggage upstairs. Feilai brought little Jerlin to the top floor. "Qin, you're too relaxed." Feilai looked at Qin Zhao, who was lying beside the pool. "Didn't you say you were going to check Dell and Johnny's problems? Is this how you're helping?" Qin Zhao sat up and looked at Feilai. "There's no problems. You can't let me keep wandering around, right, Dad?" Jerlin had already pounced on Qin Zhao and sat on his stomach. Actually, Dell wanted Chen Zhao's family to experience for a few days so that Chen Zhao could stay in the hotel. There were always some hidden things that might not appear immediately. If something went wrong after Chen Zhao's inspection and they had to find Qin Zhao, it would be even more troublesome. So, it was better to let Qin Zhao stay for a few more days. If something went wrong, Chen Zhao could solve it immediately. Qin Zhao didn't care. He could eat and stay for free for a few days and get high-quality service. Why not? At night, the waiter pushed a sumptuous dinner to their suite. Qin Zhao and Feilai enjoyed a candlelit dinner. Just as they were about to rest, Qin Zhao's call came. Qin Zhao looked at his phone. It was Lit Grove. He looked at the time. It was 11 p.m. Chapter 12:12. After hesitating for a long time, Qin Zhao finally picked up the phone. "Teacher." Ritter Grove seemed a bit scared. "What's wrong?" "I got a corpse today," Ritter Grove said. "Get to the point." "This corpse is a bit strange. I'm not sure if he's dead or not. I'm not even sure if he's human. You're in the hospital now." "Yes, I'll go over now." Chen Zhao hurried to Chantilly Hospital. Silently, he arrived outside the morgue. "Teacher." Seeing Chen Zhao, Ritter Grove heaved a sigh of relief. "Take me to the corpse." Ritter Grove brought Chen Zhao into the morgue. He stopped before a freezer and pulled it open. There was a corpse inside, but there didn't seem to be anything special about it. Chen Zhao looked at Ritter Grove in confusion. "Is there anything special about this corpse?" Ritter Grove didn't speak. He just looked at the corpse. Suddenly, the corpse's face changed. It was like a flash of an image. The corpse was still a corpse. In that instant, Chen Zhao saw the corpse's face turn into an unfamiliar, twisted face. "This." Chen Zhao furrowed his brows in deep thought. "What is this? Who is he? Or is he even human? And is he dead? Teacher, do you know what's going on?" "What's his identity?" Ritter Grove took out the registration form and handed it to Chen Zhao. "Thomas Bailey, postman. Time of death is 5:20 in the afternoon. The cause of death is a car accident. He died after being sent to the hospital." Just then there was a commotion outside. It seemed like someone had come, and there were quite a few of them. Then the door to the morgue opened. "I don't care. I want to see my husband. I don't believe it. I don't believe he's dead." Chen Zhao looked. The woman who was screaming at the top of her lungs seemed to be the customer service manager from the hotel today. Molly wiped her tears as she walked into the morgue. Beside her were the nurses from the hospital. They were all trying to persuade Molly. When they saw Chen Zhao and Ritter Grove in the morgue, they were all stunned. When Emily saw her husband's body, she immediately cried and rushed over. "Bailey, how could you do this? How could you abandon me like this?" Molly hit her husband's chest and cried her heart out. Suddenly, Thomas Bailey's hand moved. Chen Zhao frowned. Molly suddenly shivered. "Bailey, you're not dead? You're not dead, are you?" "Who?" At this moment, everyone heard Thomas Bailey's long exhale. "Doctor, quick, quick! Bailey's not dead. He's not dead. Please save him." A few nurses rushed forward to check. Thomas Bailey was indeed breathing again. They did not dare to delay and quickly dragged Thomas Bailey out of the freezer. Chen Zhao looked at Molly. She seemed to be crying her heart out, but she wasn't as sad as he'd imagined. Thomas Bailey's resurrection was also orchestrated by her. Glancing at Chen Zhao and Lit Grove, Molly wiped away her tears and followed them out of the morgue. "Teacher, there's something wrong with that woman." Of course. Wasn't it obvious? Strangely, he didn't feel any magic power from Molly. He didn't even feel that Molly was casting a spell when she slapped the corpse. After emergency treatment, Thomas Bailey's life was no longer in danger, and he was sent to the ICU. Molly stood beside Thomas Bailey's bed and gently tidied up his hair. "Bailey, how do you feel now?" "Not good. Not good at all," Thomas Bailey said weakly. "How did this happen? How did you get into a car accident?" "I was found by my own kind," Thomas Bailey said. "Same kind? You have the same kind?" "Yes, that's why I left a third of my life essence with you. I had a feeling that they would come for me," Thomas Bailey said. "Get me out of the hospital now. I faked my death and escaped their pursuit, but they'll find out sooner or later that I'm not dead. They'll come again then. I can't stay here." "But where are we going?" "Not us. Molly, following me won't do any good. You shouldn't get involved in this conflict. Bailey, I love you. I don't care about the danger. Take me away." "Molly, you don't understand." Molly knew his identity. Of course. She only knew the gist of it. She knew that he was an alien, but she did not know that he was actually a demon that humans feared. They'd known each other for 3 years and been married for more than a year. If possible, Thomas Bailey only hoped that he could spend the rest of his life with Molly. But what he feared the most had finally happened. They were here, his own kind. I only know that I love you. Molly bit her lower lip and stared at Thomas Bailey with deep love. Thomas Bailey also stared at Molly. I'm a demon, Thomas Bailey said. I'm a demon that goes against God and the legends. Molly's face was pale. She stared at Thomas Bailey. After a long while, Molly's eyes became determined. I don't care. I only know that you're my husband. Let's go now and leave this place forever. Molly helped Thomas Bailey up and put him in the wheelchair. When she pushed Thomas out of the ICU, she saw Chin Zhao and Little Grove standing there. Molly left in another direction, pushing Thomas Bailey away in a hurry. Teacher, should we chase after them? Of course. I need to know what happened, Chin Zhao said. That man is clearly not an ordinary person. This is my territory. I want to know the real reason for his injury and his identity. Molly got into the car with her husband. Her mind was in a mess. She was actually very anxious. After all, she was just an ordinary woman. She was just a woman who married a demon. That was all. From the day they got married, Thomas Bailey had told her that he was not human. Molly was still determined to choose Thomas Bailey. She had also wondered if it was worth it. But women were always so blind when it came to love. Molly, where are we going? Chapter 12-13. Molly suddenly realized that there was a car following them. It's that Asian. Molly saw the two people in the convertible through the rearview mirror. Bailey, look at the convertible behind us. The Asian who was following us was already there when you entered the morgue, and now he's following us again. Is he also a demon? Thomas Bailey glanced at the rearview mirror. We can't tell like this. We escaped from the seal. Some demons have been hiding for hundreds of years. They're more human than humans. We'll only know if they're a demon when they reveal their power. Thomas Bailey said again, Molly, put me down. Let me talk to him. No, you're too weak now. You'll be killed again. But we can escape. You understand, Thomas Bailey said. You shouldn't be involved in this. Can't we reason with them? Or we can give them money. I have money. Whether it's me or my kind, we never want money, Thomas Bailey said. Thomas Bailey said, what those commanders are after is to resurrect our master. Master? You have a master? A great demon that ravaged Europe for 1,000 years. I was once a human, Thomas Bailey said. Kants Mosa pretended to be our lord and turned us into demons. He cast a spell on us to make us loyal to him. On the first day we were turned into demons. He gave us our first order. Thomas Bailey's body was trembling slightly. Molly turned to look at him. What was the first order he gave? Killing our family with my own hands. Thomas Bailey was already crying. My wife and my child, I killed them with my own hands. Molly opened her mouth. She realized that she couldn't say anything to comfort him. There was nothing more painful than killing the people you loved with your own hands. Then, how did you break free from his control? I never broke free from his control, Thomas Bailey said. Thomas Bailey said, even though he was sealed, his voice still echoed in my mind until we were also sealed. When I woke up from the seal again, that voice gradually disappeared. I woke up a few decades ago, and only after a long time did I realize that 1,000 years had passed. Later, I met someone of the same kind, and that person told me that because of the time of awakening, the effects of Kong Mosa were different. The later the demon awakened, the smaller the effect, and some demons who awakened very early were already planning to resurrect Kong Mosa. If a person could kill that great demon 1,000 years ago, they can do it now. It's impossible. Thomas Bailey shook his head. 1,000 years ago, there were powerful witches and priests everywhere in Europe. But now, there are very few spiritualists who can be considered powerful. Now, why are your kind looking for you? They seem to have found Kants Mosa's soul, Thomas Bailey said. They planned to gather the former demon army to take back Kants Mosa's soul and resurrect him. I refused, so they attacked me. By then, their car had already reached the coastal road. But then their car broke down. Molly started the engine anxiously, but the car wouldn't start. Damn, I should have thrown this stupid car away long ago. Just then, the convertible behind them stopped as well. Molly, don't get out. No matter what happens, don't come out. Thomas Bailey dragged his weak body out of the car and walked toward Chin Zhao and Little Grove. Chin Zhao and Little Grove also got out of the car. Thomas Bailey looked at the two of them. He wanted to tell if they were the same kind as him. Chin Zhao was also studying Thomas Bailey. Aren't you going to introduce yourself? Chen Zhao asked. Just as Thomas Bailey was about to speak, his gaze was suddenly attracted by something behind Chin Zhao. A blinding light shone on the people standing by the road. Chin Zhao also turned his head, but he couldn't see anything because of the blinding light. By the time he could see clearly, a huge force had already hit him. Boom! Chin Zhao was sent flying and then rolled on the ground a few times. A large truck stopped in front of them. The truck was emitting a thick black aura. A figure got out of the truck. Thomas Bailey saw the person and felt like he was facing a great enemy. She had a graceful figure with waist-length hair and was dressed in tight clothes. Candolin, why won't you let me go? I'm already like this. Let you go? Traitors should be punished. You failed to live up to your master's expectations, so you should be punished. Candolin pulled out a pair of red daggers from his back. I was tricked the first time, but it won't happen again. You must die. Just then, Chen Zhao, who'd been sent flying, stood up again. It hurts a lot. Why did you hit me with the car? Chen Zhao rubbed his forehead. Teacher, are you okay? Ritter Grove hurriedly ran over and asked in concern. Candolin and Thomas Bailey both stared at Chin Zhao in shock. Chin Zhao hadn't died from such a crash. Human, you're not dead? Candolin asked in surprise. Human? So you're not human? Chen Zhao looked at Candolin. To be honest, even Chen Zhao couldn't see anything strange about Candolin. Candolin grinned. Her face suddenly turned into a red-faced demon with a pair of demon horns that curved like a goat's. What do you think? Demon. Chen Zhao narrowed his eyes and looked at Thomas Bailey. You're a demon too? Since you're not one of us, you better run now, Thomas Bailey said. She's a demon of torture. If you fall into her hands, you might not even have a chance to die. Really? I'm quite experienced in this area. How about we exchange some ideas? Demon of torture. You want me to exchange ideas with you? Suddenly, Candolin's voice came from behind Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao's neck tightened. Candolin's long hair had curled around his neck. Chapter 12:14. It definitely didn't feel good to have a mouthful of hair stuffed into his mouth. Moreover, the hair was still digging into his throat. Chen Zhao was furious. He couldn't spit out the hair. Chen Zhao grabbed Candorin's two horns and headbutt. Bang! Candorin was dizzy from Chen Zhao's headbutt. Chen Zhao headbutt again. Chen Zhao pulled out the hair in his mouth and pressed Candorin onto the ground. One punch, another punch, and another punch. Chen Zhao didn't kill, but Candorin still couldn't take Chen Zhao's punches. After a few punches, Candorin was already gasping for air. Chen Zhao pulled Candorin's horns and stood up again. Candorin was paralyzed on the ground. If Chen Zhao wasn't still pulling her horns, she would be a piece of rotten meat now. Thomas Bailey was dumbfounded. This female demon was Candorin. She was definitely not weak. But why was she so weak? Suddenly, the large truck that was parked not far away suddenly erupted with terrifying magic power. Thomas Bailey was shocked. He recognized this magic and could even be said to have a deep memory of it. Just then, Candorin slowly opened her eyes. She'd also woken up because of the magic. You're dead. Lord Bustill is angry. Thomas Bailey jumped in fright. Boostier. Bostel, one of the 4 great commanders? The truck suddenly burst into red flames, and a wild beast came out from inside the truck. It tore the truck apart. Hellfire burned on its body. It had the head of a bull the body of a tiger and a pair of wings on its back. Molly, who was hiding in the car, was also shocked. Thomas Bailey turned and charged toward the car. He pulled Molly and was about to escape. But Bustill suddenly jumped and rushed in front of Thomas Bailey and Molly. "Thomas Bailey, do you think you can leave without my permission?" Thomas and Molly's faces paled. "Teacher." Lick Grove was also a little frightened. He'd heard that Qin Zhao had fought some monster or demon before, but this was his first time facing such a terrifying existence. "Drive further away," Qin Zhao said. "I don't want my car to be damaged in a battle." Ritter Grove wanted to leave the scene immediately. Hearing Chen Zhao's order, he immediately jumped into the car. But before he could start, Bustill jumped again. If he fell, Qin Zhao's car and Lick Grove would die for sure. "Teacher, help!" Little Grove shouted. "Fuck off!" Chen Zhao suddenly sped up. He jumped up and kicked Bustill's stomach. Bustill suffered a heavy blow and smashed into the mountain wall by the side of the road. "Don't touch my car, you can't afford it." Lick Grove was speechless. Qin Zhao just wanted to save his car, not himself. Thomas Bailey stared at Chen Zhao in disbelief. Was this guy human? He's fighting with Boostir? Bustill stood up again and shook his head. "Roar!" Bustill let out an angry roar. His wings fluttered as he rose into the air. "How about being my mount? I need a ride right now." Qin Zhao looked at Bustill. This seemed like a good idea. He could fly, but he couldn't fly very high. It would be much more convenient if he had a mount. "Lowly human, you think you can?" Bustill hovered in the air and looked down at Qin Zhao. "Only Lord Kong Mosa has the right to ride me." "Forget it if you don't want to." Qin Zhao looked at Bustill. "But if I can't have it, no one else can." Bustill suddenly opened his mouth and shot a mouthful of hell flame at Qin Zhao. The dark lava immediately blocked the hell flame. At the same time, Qin Zhao pointed his right arm at Bustill. The energy in the eye of the thunder filled the mouth of Gluttony. Crack! Wild electric arcs pierced through Bustill. Bustill didn't expect Qin Zhao to attack like this. He fell from the sky. However, Chen Zhao's electric attack didn't cause any fatal damage. He stood up again. Of course, Chen Zhao's attack wasn't completely ineffective. Bustill was already injured. Little Grove didn't leave either. He watched the fight between Qin Zhao and Bustill. Although he was afraid, he was more interested in the battle between Qin Zhao and Bustill. In the past, he'd heard from others how Qin Zhao fought against powerful enemies. Today, he was finally lucky enough to witness Chen Zhao's fight, and his opponent was a powerful demon. Thomas Bailey and Molly were stunned by the battle in front of them, especially Thomas Bailey. He knew very well how terrifying Bustill was. Bustill was one of the 4 leaders of the demon army. He was also Kong Mosa's mount. Back then, Bustill had killed 3 great demonesses and an archbishop. In the great battle 1,000 years ago, Bustill had been deliberately lured away in order to successfully seal Kong Mosa. But now, this man from the east had actually gained the upper hand with his own strength. "Human, do you really think you can beat me?" "Obviously." Qin Zhao shrugged. "I'm starting to get serious now." Bustill stared at Qin Zhao. Suddenly, Kandarin, whom Qin Zhao was holding, launched a sneak attack. Her hair curled around Qin Zhao's legs and body. "Human, go to hell." At the same time, Bustill also charged at Qin Zhao, his horn stabbing at Qin Zhao. Not good. Thomas Bailey cried in his mind. Clearly, the man had been too careless. He'd forgotten that there was a dangerous demon beside him. Suddenly, Qin Zhao grinned. Everyone could feel the danger in Chen Zhao's smile. They all felt danger for no reason. He was the one in danger, but why was he smiling like this? Boostir also stopped his charge in an instant. This guy was so dangerous. Bustill's beast-like instincts made him give up this impulse. He couldn't get close to him. Bustill took a few steps back. Qin Zhao stepped forward and tore off Kandarin's hair with his legs. Kandarin shrieked. After all, it was very painful to have one's hair torn off. Even a demon was no exception. Chun Zhao broke one of Kandarin's horns and charged at Bustil. Bustil wanted to fly again, but Chun Zhao had already jumped behind him. The demon's horns pierced into his skin. Then Chun Zhao pulled again. Rip! The skin on Bustil's back was torn open. Chapter 12:15. Bustil could feel what Chun Zhao was going to do. In fact, everyone saw it. Chun Zhao was going to skin Bustil. Blood splashed all over Chun Zhao's body. Bustil's blood burned Chun Zhao's body with a scorching heat. But Chun Zhao didn't care, as if he couldn't feel it. Bustil fell to the ground and rolled around, rubbing against Chun Zhao. He wanted to rub Chun Zhao off his back, but the exposed wounds touched the ground, making him feel even more pain. Chun Zhao pulled with all his might and jumped off Bustil's back. Half of Bustil's skin was peeled off. Everyone stared at Chun Zhao, dumbfounded. By now, Bustil was on the verge of death. But the brutality didn't stop. Chun Zhao was still holding Kandarin's horn and skinning Bustil. From the looks of it, Chun Zhao looked more like a cruel demon. Grove, what do you think about putting the skin in the front hall of the association? Lick Grove's smile was forced. Great teacher. That's a great idea. He didn't dare to say if it was too terrifying. No matter how terrifying it was, it couldn't be as terrifying as Chun Zhao, right? Lick Grove's fear of Chun Zhao had already seeped into his bones. One had to admit that Bustil had a tenacious life force. Even though his entire skin had been peeled off, he still didn't die. Chun Zhao patted the flames on his body. The dark lava started corroding his body. It wasn't like when the mother's body was corroded and turned black. After Bustil's body was corroded, it became mainly black. There were also red patterns. Finally, Bustil completely became Chun Zhao's puppet. His gaze wasn't so cruel anymore. There was only emotionless coldness. But Bustil's body was so big that Chun Zhao's dark lava had been used up quite a bit. Dark lava had always been one of Chun Zhao's trump cards, so he wasn't willing to use it to corrode useless enemies. For example, the larger deep abyss demons. In terms of strength, they were stronger than Bustil, but they would also use up more dark lava. So Chun Zhao didn't want to use dark lava to corrode the demon's body. However, although Bustil's strength was inferior to the abyssal demons, he could fly. Furthermore, he wouldn't consume too much darkness lava. Chun Zhao had never given up on the idea of making him his mount. Chun Zhao was still obsessed with flying in the sky. Although he could fly now, he couldn't soar freely. Therefore, finding a mount was a good choice. As for flying on his own, he could take his time. He believed that one day he would be able to fly even higher. Ha! Chun Zhao turned around and saw Lit Grove holding a wrench and flipping Kandarin to the ground. Teacher, she wants to escape. Well done. Chun Zhao looked at Thomas Bailey. Thomas and Molly's faces were pale. The man in front of him was even more terrifying than a demon. They had witnessed with their own eyes how this man had cruelly killed this demon. It was an appalling act. Are you going to follow me obediently or fight me? Chun Zhao asked. This has nothing to do with her, Thomas Bailey said. She's just a normal person. If you want something, come at me. I don't care who she is to you, Chun Zhao said. Since she's with you, she's not unrelated. I can tell you whatever you want to know. As long as I know, I can tell you. Please let Molly go. Then who are you? And why are these two demons chasing you? I'm also a demon. Thomas Bailey revealed his true appearance. He had become tall and powerful. Chun Zhao and Lit Grove had already seen his true appearance. Because I don't want to continue following the demon army, Thomas Bailey said. They're chasing me as a traitor. I don't want to live the evil life from 1,000 years ago. Demon army? Chun Zhao was surprised. You're a member of Kong Mosa's demon army? You know Kong Mosa? Yes. The host of 1/3 of his soul is in my hands right now. Before the 15th of this month, The demon army will attack my territory. Only then did Thomas Bailey understand why there were so many of his kind. It turned out that they had to deal with such a terrifying enemy. However, no matter how powerful this man was, he was still just one person. He couldn't fight the entire demon army alone. Chun Zhao pointed at Bastier, who had completely become his puppet. Who is this guy? He's one of the 4 commanders, Bastier. Kong Mosa's mount. What about the other 3 commanders? How strong are they compared to this guy? Bastil is close to the other 2 commanders. The other 3 commanders are Undying Arrow, Shadow Vanguard Eden, and Doan Tucker. Among them, Doan Tucker is the most terrifying. It is said that he directly received 1/3 of Kans Mosa's demonic power. Tell me what magic or battle techniques they're good at. Also, are there any similar strong people in the demon army? Undead Arrow has mastered necromancy. He can awaken the sleeping dead. Shadow Vanguard Eden never appears in front of the enemy. He will always appear behind the enemy. Candlin is Eden's subordinate. Also, Doan Tuck is the most mysterious great commander. No one knows how he fights, but there has never been an enemy he couldn't defeat. Thomas Bailey paused for a moment before continuing. Other than the 4 commanders, there are many other strong demons in the demon army. The 4 commanders were chosen because they were the strongest, but there are many demons who are close to them in strength. When we were transformed into demons, some received more demon power, while some received less. Take me, for example. I'm one of the weaker ones. According to Thomas Bailey, there were a lot of demons similar to or close to Bastil. This also showed how terrifying the demon army was. Even Qin Zhao wasn't confident. It was easy for Qin Zhao to kill Bastier, but this didn't mean that Bastier was weak. If there were 10 Bastil attacking Qin Zhao, what if there were 100? Chapter 12:16. You can go, Qin Zhao said. With that, blackened Bastil sank into the dark lava. Then he dragged Candlin into the car and drove away. Thomas Bailey and Molly didn't expect Qin Zhao to leave so easily. When Chun Zhao and Lit Grove brought Bastil's leatherback to the headquarters, it caused quite a commotion. Right now, the demon skin still had a thick aura. Everyone who'd been sound asleep felt the demon's aura and woke up in fright. They thought that there was an enemy invasion, but when they woke up, Qin Zhao was there. They relaxed a little. When they saw the demon skin on the ground, they more or less knew what was going on. Candlin was also on the ground. Right now, she was like a dead dog. She was probably scared by Chun Zhao's beating, or scared out of her wits. Throw her into the dungeon. We'll interrogate her tomorrow. Teacher, I'll watch. Lit Grove felt that this was related to him. After all, he'd caused it, so he was very proactive. He hadn't participated in the association's previous operations. He'd always felt that he didn't really fit in. Now that something had happened, he finally felt that he was a member of the association. Okay, see if you can pry her mouth open. If not, I'll come tomorrow. With that, Qin Zhao returned to the hotel. When he reached the hotel, he washed the blood off his body. Then he hugged Fei Lai and slept soundly. Fei Lai sensed Qin Zhao's return. She murmured, "Did you do bad things again?" For world peace, go to sleep. The next morning, Del and Risfar came to disturb them. Even though their family was just experiencing the guests, however, Qin Zhao and Fei Lai wouldn't write their suggestions in their notebook. They'd say it in person. "Qin, can you do me a favor?" Risfar told Qin Zhao his thoughts directly. "I want the nameless wine." Qin Zhao nodded. "What? How much?" "At least 3 bottles per month." "Sure." Qin Zhao answered straightforwardly. "No more. 3 bottles per month." On one hand, he could afford it. On the other hand, it would not steal the limelight from Mara's supermarket. "These 3 bottles of wine will be the room fee. This room will be reserved for our family. We will come and stay here when we have time. Don't let others stay here, okay?" Risfar and Del both laughed. Qin Zhao didn't call this an exchange of benefits. It looked like a fair deal, but they all knew that Chen Zhao had purposely erased their relationship so that they wouldn't feel bad. Chen Zhao was actually returning the favor. Risvar and Dell had both helped him before. There are big and small things they help with. All these things, big and small, added up to feelings. Therefore, Chen Zhao didn't want to negotiate with them. Plus, the room's layout, orientation, interior, and scenery were all top-notch. Chen Zhao really liked it here. "Let's talk about our shortcomings here," Risvar said. "We've only been here for a day. How can we feel it? If I have to say something, it's that the people here are a little less. After all, it was only a trial operation, and there were only a few experienced guests." At this moment, there was a knock on the door. The door was open, and Molly was standing in the doorway. "Mr. Dell, Mr. Risvar, these are the suggestions made by the guests today. Please take a look. You management can handle this yourself. Make some changes if it's reasonable." The two of them were the bosses. Actually, they didn't need to decide on the changes. The hotel had a few hundred employees and 20 to 30 management staff. They were paid so that they could be in charge of the main operations. Chen Zhao glanced at Molly. Didn't she leave with her demon husband? "Okay, then I won't disturb you anymore. Chen, can you tell us the supplier of your special ingredients?" Risvar asked. "I really can't, Johnny. If it's possible, I won't be stingy, but I really can't provide it to you." "All right." Risvar didn't have much hope either. After all, he'd wanted the supplier when he'd attended the party earlier. Those creatures were almost all hunted by Chen Zhao. It wasn't some farm or hunting team. Risvar had actually guessed the problem with the supply. After all, with his experience, he'd eaten countless delicacies. The ingredients Chen Zhao provided at the private party were definitely top-notch. What were top-notch ingredients? Another meaning of top-notch ingredients was that they were rare. "Oh, my brewery should start production in June or July. By then, if your hotel needs beer, you can have my products. It definitely won't disgrace your hotel. You're going to open a brewery." Dell and Risvar were both surprised. They weren't surprised that Chen Zhao knew how to brew beer. After all, Chen Zhao could brew a top-notch wine, like the nameless wine. What surprised them was that Chen Zhao didn't even tell them beforehand. "It's just an idea I had last month. Also, I need to save some money for myself. Chen, I won't talk too much about business, but I'll give you a suggestion for business. When you're almost done paying off the loan for your brewery, borrow some more money from the bank. Don't ever finish paying off the bank." Risvar's words were in line with Denver's philosophy. Denver's philosophy was also that they needed to maintain cooperation with banks through loans. Chen Zhao was a Chinese. The Chinese's philosophy was that if you borrowed money, you had to pay it back. It was normal for Americans to borrow money. Families were borrowing from the bank since the birth of a child. Therefore, they felt that borrowing money was normal no matter what they did. But as Chinese, they thought that borrowing money wasn't a good thing, because it would be a psychological burden. This was a difference in philosophy. Almost 80% of Americans were moonlighters. They had to rely on their next month's salary to survive. 46% of Americans didn't have more than $800 in savings. Actually, Chinese's philosophy of consumption had been changing in recent years. But deep down, Chinese people still felt that saving money was better than borrowing money. In the big picture, Americans' philosophy of consumption in advance was the root of economic prosperity. If everyone kept their money in the bank, then modern commerce would be destroyed. What was the purpose of social welfare? It was also to promote the concept of consumption. In the past, people needed to save money because they were afraid that they wouldn't be able to afford medical treatment if they got sick. But if the country bore a large portion, individuals and families wouldn't need to save so much money. Everyone could take out their money and use it immediately. Of course, it didn't mean that excessive consumption was always good. Americans' ability to resist risks was very weak. A single unemployment could destroy a family. Therefore, no one was right or wrong. Everything was reasonable. Chen Zhao still had his own ideas. In the current business model, when a businessman had money, he wouldn't pay it back. Instead, he would invest it in other areas or expand production, then borrow more money. If he could maintain this expansion method, he would earn more and more money and owe more and more to the bank. But the risk would also increase. If there was a problem in one part of the business model would be destroyed. Moreover, Chen Zhao had no ambition. To Chen Zhao, anything other than practicing medicine was an extra income. Chapter 12:17. In the afternoon, Chen Zhao arrived at the headquarters of the association. Teacher. Hearing that Chen Zhao had arrived, Lit Grove immediately ran out to welcome him. At the same time, he asked for credit. Yes. Did you get any information from the interrogation last night? Teacher, I asked around. Actually, not all the demons in the demon army are willing to participate, Lit Grove said. There are many examples, like Thomas Bailey, Lit Grove said. They were all converted from humans to demons. So many of their members are actually human. Chen Zhao wasn't surprised by Lit Grove's words. Even a pure devil still had some humanity in them. No person or demon could obey others unconditionally. Loyalty and betrayal were opposites. Some succumbed to other people's inherent fear, some for money, some because they had something on them, or they had their own goals. If Chen Zhao was sealed one day, he believed that there would be people in the association who would save him. Chen Zhao believed that there would be people in the society who would save him and those who would protect themselves. No one could completely control others forever. So, only half of the demons will participate in the attack on the association, Lit Grove said. This was good news. It reduced the pressure of the attack by half. It was good news for both Chen Zhao and the association. Chen Zhao didn't mention the power to suppress everything. If Chen Zhao had to face 1,000 powerful demons, he would probably have to run too. So, half of them wouldn't participate. At least, it would increase their chances of winning. There's another general in the demon army, Undying Arrow. She's not willing to participate either. Are you sure Kindolin is telling the truth? She wants to work with us. Work together? How? Chen Zhao was surprised. She wants the demon core of Shadow Vanguard Eden. She wants to replace Eden. If that's all, it's not enough for me to completely believe her. She said that she knows where Eden and her subordinates are hiding. We can launch an attack on Eden in advance to weaken the strength of the demon army. Chen Zhao narrowed his eyes. This was a good idea. Weakening the demon army in advance. After thinking for a while, Chen Zhao had an idea. Since Kindolin was willing to cooperate, he would cooperate. Whether it was a trap or not, he would go. It would be best if it wasn't a trap. Everyone would benefit from it. If it was a trap, then he would beat him at his own game. Of course. Chen Zhao wouldn't foolishly dive in. What Chen Zhao had to do was to be fully prepared. No one was stupid. Chen Zhao thought that he was smart. He wouldn't treat those demons as fools. Whoever treats who as a fool is the real fool. Just then, Chen Zhao sensed something and raised his head. Chen Zhao saw a small figure standing at the edge of the rooftop of the headquarters. Chen Zhao was shocked. Isn't that Evans? Why did he go up there? Chen Zhao quickly ran to the bottom of the roof. Evans, what are you doing up there? Chen Zhao could go up and carry Evans down right now. However, Chen Zhao didn't do that. In order to ensure Evans' safety, he didn't want to use too extreme methods. Children were very innocent. If Chen Zhao flew up and hugged Evans this time, he wouldn't be able to do anything. Perhaps in Evans's mind, the next time he fell from above, he would appear again. The reason why some TV shows with young content would try to remove content like falling from buildings or playing with fire or water was because they didn't want to mislead children. Children didn't understand these things. They thought that what they saw was right. So, if Evans hadn't fallen, Chen Zhao wouldn't have gone up. Evans lowered his head and looked at the display downstairs. I'm talking to Belle. Who's Belle? Chen Zhao asked curiously. Belle is Belle. Evans pointed outside the rooftop. Uncle, can't you see? Chen Zhao frowned. He didn't see anything. But in that instant, Chen Zhao really felt something appear. But he couldn't see it. Right now. Chen Zhao didn't think that it was Evans's hysteria. He believed that there were some things in the world that others couldn't see. Only a few people could see them. For example, only Chen Zhao could see Blackie. There was also the metal box that had led him to this path in the first place, and the keys. Only Chen Zhao could see them. This had nothing to do with power. The strong were strong, and the weak were weak. He couldn't see them. Even if Chen Zhao placed the metal box before Beelzebub, Zophi, the handsome boy, or Old Turtle, they still couldn't see it. Plus, Chen Zhao had felt it just now, so he believed that Evans had really seen something. It was also possible that that person or that thing had used some means to only let Evans see it. Chen Zhao had checked Evans before. He was just a regular kid. He didn't have the potential to become a spiritualist. Therefore, the possibility that he could see something, but Chen Zhao couldn't, was very low. There was only one possibility. That thing had appeared before Evans on its own. Also, it might not appear in a physical form. It might be a spiritual connection with Evans. In that instant, what Chen Zhao had felt might be a magic connection between this thing and Evans. Chen Zhao started to cover Evans and his surroundings with a small world. He felt something a few meters in front of Evans. Magic power? It wasn't magic power. It was a ball of spiritual power. Chen Zhao tried to communicate with this ball of mental power, but it didn't respond. Or rather, Chen Zhao didn't connect at all. Evans, say goodbye to Belle. Talk to him next time. I'll take you out to play, Chen Zhao said. Chen Zhao didn't know what the spiritual power connected to Evans was trying to do. But Belle wants me to accompany her too. Then you can come down to play. Don't stand so high. It'll hurt if you fall. Belle, I'm right. Let's go down, Evans said to the air. Not long after, Evans left the rooftop and came down from above. Chen Zhao heaved a sigh of relief. Grove, keep an eye on Evans in the association. Don't let him be alone. Chen Zhao went to Evans's room. He realized that there were many new drawings on Evans's table. Every drawing was horrifying. Just from the contents, Chen Zhao's first impression was that it was evil. Chapter 1218. Chen Zhao waited until Gaia returned from the set. Chen Zhao told Gaia his guess. You're saying that there's something that you and I can't see approaching Evans? Yes. Chen Zhao nodded. Chen, do you have a solution? Not yet, Chen Zhao said helplessly. The thing isn't physical or spiritual. I can't even touch it. I can only vaguely feel its existence. Gaia fell into deep thought. She believed that if Chen Zhao had a solution, he wouldn't be stingy with helping her. Thankfully, there were many people in the Union. There were usually people around, and Chen Zhao had orders. Apart from when Evans was sleeping, there would always be someone by his side at all times. When Chen Zhao and Gaia walked into the headquarters, Dongya Tianqi and Genkira came over. President, I've already made the weapon you wanted. I'm done too. President, I made it first. I was the one who made it first. Didn't you say it would take 10 days? You're done in half the time? Is it shoddy? Chen Zhao was suspicious of their speed. President, I haven't slept at all these days and haven't left the workshop. Genkira looked at Chen Zhao with dark circles under his eyes. Chen Zhao looked at Dongya Tianqi. His eyes were also lifeless. In the past few days, the two of them had forged with all their might. They hadn't slept at all. Where's the weapon? Let me see. Both of them ran back to their workshops. Even when they ran, they didn't give an inch and bumped into each other. A few minutes later, the two of them came to Chen Zhao with a large pile of swords. President, look at the weapon I made for you first. Look at mine first. What's the rush? Are you in a rush to reincarnate? Chen Zhao said in annoyance. Dongya Tianqi, if you bring another pile of katanas, don't blame me for getting angry. Of course not. Dongya Tianqi had learned his lesson. not to mention whether he still held to his previous viewpoint. If he continued to make katanas for Qin Zhao, he would definitely lose the bet. Okay, you first. President, please take a look at this great sword. It's 5 meters long, 15 centimeters wide, and weighs 225 kilograms. Isn't it too heavy? Dongye, Tianqi asked. No. Qin Zhao lifted the heavy sword and tapped it with his finger. The engravings on the body of the sword were quite beautiful. They were inlaid with gold. When Qin Zhao picked up the heavy sword, he felt that it was sturdy. At the end of the sword there was a barb guard, and the hilt was wrapped in a layer of beast skin. The main material of this heavy sword is a combination of magic tin gold and stone, where gold. Both are very heavy metals, and the hilt is wrapped in the skin of a magic rhinoceros, which makes it more comfortable to hold without hindering the user's mana. Dongye Tianqi said confidently. Not bad. I quite like this sword. Guild leader, please take a look at the center I've made for you before making your decision. Genkira immediately became anxious. If Qin Zhao made his decision now, he would have nothing to do with it. President, this sword of mine weighs 455 kilograms and is 75 meters long. It is made of tin and titanium alloy. To be precise, this sword of mine is not a magic weapon. However, it fulfills your requirements of being heavy and durable. Qin Zhao accepted the sword that Genkira had made. Indeed, the sword was wider and longer. Although it couldn't be infused with mana, it felt stronger. I like your sword more, Qin Zhao said. Genkira was instantly overjoyed. He looked at Dongye Tianqi proudly. Guild leader, my sword is a magic weapon, Dongye Tianqi said unhappily. Hers is just a regular weapon. No matter how you look at it, she's the loser. I've told you my requirements. Heavy, durable, and doesn't require high mana conductivity. If I didn't have the weapon forged by Genkira and only have this sword of yours, I might like it. But now that I have this sword of hers, I still prefer the feel of her sword. Dongye Tianqi, I won. Now you have to call me teacher. Wait, it's not over yet, Dongye Tianqi said immediately. Guild leader, there's still the 12 light swords you requested. Dongye Tianqi placed the 12 light swords before Qin Zhao. Genkira didn't back down either. He placed the 12 light swords that he'd made before Qin Zhao. These 12 swords are made of Qingyu Bailing. Although Qingyu Bailing isn't made of metal, it has been soaked in the blood of 9 different magical creatures. Not only is it stronger than normal metal, but it also has a strong mana conductivity. At the same time, it's also very light. Each sword weighs less than 5 kilograms, Dongye Tianqi said. That's right. My work is made of spirit iron. It also has strong mana conductivity. The sword weighs 7 kilograms. Qin Zhao first tried Dongye Tianqi's light sword. As he'd said, it was very light and had excellent mana conductivity. Then he tried Genkira's light sword. The effect was not bad, but it wasn't as good as Dongye Tianqi's. Both mana conductivity and weight couldn't compare to Dongye Tianqi's weapon. Let's see whose is harder. Qin Zhao each took a light sword and knocked it against each other. In the collision of metal and metal, a corner of Genkira's light sword flew off, while Dongye Tianqi's weapon was unharmed. In this round, Qin Zhao used the most direct way to compete, so Genkira lost wholeheartedly. This light sword is Dongye Tianqi's victory. Guild leader, does that mean I won? Dongye Tianqi was overjoyed. Why did you win? We each won 1 round. It should be a tie, Genkira corrected immediately. I have 12 swords, but you only have 1. Of course I win in terms of numbers. One of my swords weighs more than 12 of your swords. In that case, I should be the one to win. Neither gave in. Neither was willing to give in. This is my first time trying a heavy sword, and I misunderstood the guild leader's needs. I won't lose to you next time. A loss is a loss. Why find so many excuses? All right, stop arguing. Both of you are in a tie, so don't be unhappy. If you can completely crush your opponent, then show me your strength. What's the point of arguing now? Although both of your weapons are good, they haven't completely met my requirements. Dongya Tenchi's 12 light swords and Gakira's heavy sword will be mine. Whoever can create a sword that meets my requirements first will be the final winner. Guild leader, does my heavy sword still have flaws? It's not heavy enough and it's not durable enough, Chen Zhao said. My heavy sword isn't durable enough? Chen Zhao wanted to show Genkira how he destroyed her proud weapon. However, it was rare to have a spare weapon. Chen Zhao didn't want to destroy it directly. My fighting habits have determined that this sword of yours can only be used for a few battles. Chapter 1219. Gakira had always maintained a psychological advantage over Chen Zhao. Maybe it was because she really hadn't seen Chen Zhao fight. Plus, Chen Zhao wasn't here every day, and she was always in the workshop, so she didn't know what Chen Zhao was doing. So, she always thought that Chen Zhao was a management type. She felt that the weapons she forged were enough for Chen Zhao. She really didn't understand why Chen Zhao needed better weapons. Both Gakira and Dongya Tenchi were of a higher level. Whether it was the light or heavy swords they forged, they weren't at their highest level. Of course, there were also better materials. With more time and energy, one could definitely forge better weapons. But they didn't think that it was necessary. Chen Zhao didn't know what they were thinking. If he did, he would definitely slap them to death. Chen Zhao took the weapons. As soon as he left, West came over. The two of you take this ring. This ring will allow you to enter the training tower. What tower of trials? That's the one over there. You can train your combat skills inside. No need, Dongya Tenchi said. I'm busy training my forging skills. I don't need it either. Both of them had their own personalities. They didn't want to give in to each other, especially since neither of them had won this round. They were both angry. On the way back, Chen Zhao saw a familiar figure in the convenience store. Hi, Sharon. Sharon was sitting in front of her car, drinking milk tea. She looked up and saw Chen Zhao greeting her. Chen Zhao got out of the car and also bought a cup of milk tea. He leaned against Sharon's car and chatted with her. Are you on the night shift today? I'm not in charge of traffic anymore, Sharon said. I should congratulate you. You should congratulate yourself. At least I won't catch you breaking the rules anymore. Actually, there were no pure traffic police in America. If a police officer found a traffic violation on the road, they would also take care of it. However, the main managers were police officers like Sharon, who were in charge of traffic control. Of course, if they encountered other types of crimes, they would also take care of it. In particular, if Sharon met Chen Zhao on the road, she might have to take care of him again. Chen Zhao would chat with Sharon every time he met her on the road. By the way, your car is parked in a temporary parking space. Sharon looked at the time. You can't park for more than 15 minutes. You still have 10 minutes. Remind me at the last minute, Chen Zhao said, rolling his eyes. At that moment, another convertible stopped by the roadside. A man got out of the car, holding a bouquet of roses in his hands. Shalom for you. Saran looked at the man expressionlessly. Inro, I think I made myself very clear last time. Or did you not understand me? Sharon looked at the man impatiently. Chen Zhao watched the show from the side with interest. He wondered if he should help her and act as her temporary boyfriend. Sharon, I really like you. I will use my actions to prove my feelings. No matter what you do, I won't like you. Just give up, Sarah said coldly. I don't ask you to accept me now, but please accept this bouquet of roses. Just then, Chen Zhao walked up and took the roses. This bouquet of roses is very beautiful. I thank you on behalf of Sharon. Inro's expression froze. You are. What do you think our relationship is? Chen Zhao looked at Inro with a smile. We're not a couple, right, Sharon? Inro turned to look at Sharon. Expressionlessly, Sharon looked at Inro. Why not? Why do you like him? How can I not be compared to him? Inro stared at Sharon angrily. You can't compare to him in any way. Sharon sneered at Inro. She had long been annoyed by Inro. Since Chen Zhao was willing to help her, she might as well go with the flow. Fine, Sharon. Even if you have a boyfriend, I don't care. I will use my actions to prove that I'm the most suitable for you. Goodbye. Chen Zhao waved his hand with a smile. Inro's face was livid as he turned to leave. Do you hate him? An idiot, Sharon said. He actually naively thinks that if he pursues me, my father will invest in his company. Chen Zhao was also a bit shocked. American society was different from China. In China, if a son-in-law married into a woman's family and there were no other heirs in the family, the man would gradually take over the management of the woman's family. However, for a family business like America, management would rarely change just because the man married into the family. It was also not like the man could enter management just because he married the heiress of the family. Even if the woman inherited the family business in the future, it had nothing to do with her husband. Moreover, for a marriage like theirs, they would definitely sign a prenuptial agreement before marriage. Even if he really pursues me, Sharon said, my father won't invest $50 million in his company. What's his company's business? Chen Zhao asked curiously. Travel company, Sharon said. Oh, he mostly receives tourists from Southeast Asia. $50 million for a travel company? Is he planning to use dollars to cover the Pacific Ocean? He's just an opportunist. It's about time. I should go. If I don't, you're going to give me a ticket. Chen Zhao stuffed the rose into Sharon's hands. This is for you. Can you be more sincere when you give me a gift next time? Sharon looked at the rose in her hands and then stuffed it into the trash can beside her. Chen Zhao didn't drive for long before he felt a car following him. Chen Zhao looked at the car. Wasn't it Inro's car? Chen Zhao parked the car by the roadside. Inro's car was also parked behind. Inro got out and walked to Chen Zhao's side. Sir, how about we get to know each other? Inro put his hands on Chen Zhao's car door. What do you want? Chen Zhao looked at Inro. It's about Sharon. And Chen Zhao looked at Inro. You know what Sharon's family does, right? We're already boyfriend and girlfriend. Do you think I wouldn't know? Do you want a lot of money? How much? 5 million. Chen Zhao frowned at Inro. After all, it was only 5 million. Was he really that cheap? Look at my car first. Then we can talk about the price. Chen Zhao rolled his eyes. Chen Zhao and Inro both drove convertibles, but Chen Zhao's was a Porsche 918, while Inro's was less than $100,000. Inro's expression froze. Fine, 10 million. Chapter 1220. Inro narrowed his eyes at Chen Zhao. You have the same idea, right? Of course. Why would I be with Sharon if I didn't? She's bad-tempered and hard to please. If I have money, I'd rather find someone gentle and caring. Chen Zhao didn't feel any guilt when he said such shameless words. Inro understood Chen Zhao's words very well. He treated Chen Zhao as someone in the same industry. In other words, they were the so-called professional gigolos. However, Inro wasn't a normal gigolo. Inro didn't do business for 10 years, but once he did, he could eat for 10 years. He'd been looking for Sharon for a long time this time. However, Chen Zhao was happy about Inro's misunderstanding. Finally, someone recognized his looks and thought that he had the right to be a gigolo. It wasn't easy. Did you rent this car? No, I got it from the rich woman I tricked last time, Chen Zhao said. Where's that rich woman? I worked with someone to make her bankrupt and get tens of millions of dollars. Inro gasped. He didn't expect that Chen Zhao wasn't only a kindred spirit, but also had methods that weren't weaker than his. At the same time, he believed that he'd found the right person. It's not easy to get money from Sharon's father. He's famous for being stingy. What's your original plan? Inro asked. I'll get her first, and then find a piece of land. Then, I'll tell Sharon that we don't have enough money to buy the land. She'll pay for it, and then I'll transfer it from left to right. Then, how are you going to get out? Inro asked. Even a married couple had to pay debts. Plus, the court wouldn't support the man for such a huge transfer. That's easy, Chen Zhao said matter-of-factly. Just mortgage the land to Sharon's family. That's too difficult, Inro said. If you cooperate with me, I can definitely make more money for you. It'll be easier too. What's your plan? Chen Zhao asked. I have a shell company. Try to convince Sharon to invest in my company and then make it bankrupt in 3 months. The money in the company can be transferred to an overseas account. It's absolutely safe and fast. She can't get the money back even if she wants to. I'll think about it, Chen Zhao said. In fact, Inro's method was even cruder and less reliable than Chen Zhao's. To put it bluntly, he was using feelings to swindle people. Shell companies could deceive ordinary people, but could they deceive a billionaire? This was obviously impossible. To be able to become a billionaire, who was a fool? Any random commercial detective could turn Inro's background upside down. Even Chen Zhao's investment of 30 million had to be evaluated multiple times. He had to find experts and banks for multiple reviews. Why would the investors invest in a shell company? Give me a contact number so that we can contact and discuss, Inro said. Chen Zhao gave him a number, but it wasn't Chen Zhao's number. It was West's. Chen Zhao didn't want him to disturb his phone. If Inro found out that he had been tricked and spread his phone number, he might be harassed by him. So he gave West's number to Inro. At that time, even if they wanted to harass him, it would be West, not him. This is my assistant's number, Chen Zhao said. Inro increasingly felt that Chen Zhao wasn't simple. He actually had a personal assistant. No wonder he could trick rich women out of their money. He'd tricked a few women too, but the most he got was a few $100,000. After Chen Zhao left, he sent the recording to Sharon. Not long after, Sharon called him. Chen, what's going on? That Inro just found me again. He wants to work with me to cheat your father of his money. This asterisk shoal. I won't let him go. Actually, Sharon didn't need Chen Zhao's reminder. She already knew Inro's background. But with this kind of ugly and naked evidence in front of him, his mentality changed. Sharon originally didn't want to talk to Inro, but now this recording completely ignited Sharon's anger. Do you need me to provide a gun? Chen Zhao teased. It's not convenient for you to use your gun. After a moment of silence, Sharon said, I'll give you $50,000. Help me teach this asterisk shoal a lesson. How about that? $50,000? She was too cheap. That's against the law. You're a cop. Chen Zhao didn't want to have too much to do with Inro. With his relationship with Sharon, reminding her was already very kind of him. He didn't have to help her teach Inro a lesson. Moreover, Sharon's father should be capable enough. He didn't even have to do it himself. If it was a good friend of his, like Stephen or Dell, it would be a waste of time. If they met such a scammer, he would help them teach the scammer a lesson. But he and Sharon definitely weren't good friends. All right, I'm not asking you to kill anyone. Whatever. If he finds me again, I'll think of a way to teach him a lesson, Chen Zhao said. Chen Zhao had too many ways to teach scammers a lesson. It didn't matter if it was the underworld or the legal world. Moreover, such people didn't deserve sympathy. He definitely tricked many people. Most of them were women. Even if he killed him, he would be helping the people. Of course, the prerequisite was that Inro came to him. Chen Zhao's job scope didn't include helping the people. After returning to the hotel, Chen Zhao met Molly in the lobby. Seeing Chen Zhao walk in, Molly immediately walked up. Mr. Chen, can we talk? About what? About my husband. Is there a problem? Bailey hopes to get your protection. He's a demon, and I'm a spiritualist. In terms of status, we're natural enemies. I've already shown my kindness by not killing him. But now you want me to protect him. That's not appropriate. To be frank, he wasn't related to Thomas Bailey at all. Why should he protect him? Bailey said he knows Doan Tucker's weakness. He told me yesterday that he didn't even know Doan Tucker's abilities. But now he's telling me that he knows Doan Tucker's weakness. Just this is enough reason for me to kill him, Chen Zhao said, narrowing his eyes. He's not lying, Molly quickly said. There's something in the Norton Simon Museum that can restrain Doan Tucker. Oh, Norton Simon Museum? What's that? Chapter 1221. Ever since the Norton Simon Museum's last theft, the security system had been upgraded. Even the security guards were fully armed. The security team had increased to 30 people. Even at night, there were still 15 people on duty. It was almost impossible to burglarize the Norton Simon Museum, unless Chen Zhao charged in and forced his way in. Otherwise, it was basically impossible to succeed. Also, Molly had said that it was Austria's national treasure. Stealing or robbing was impossible, so he could only buy it. Chen Zhao didn't plan on spending tens of millions of dollars on something that could only be used once. Mr. Chen, Molly said, maybe you're not interested, but Doan Tucker definitely won't let something that can threaten him exist. Chen Zhao narrowed his eyes. Doan Tucker wants to steal the sacred eye. Yes, that's what Thomas Bailey said. I'll give you an address. You and Thomas Bailey can stay there for a while. Chen Zhao gave Molly the address of the association's headquarters. But after you get there, you can't walk around casually because there are some secrets there. But as long as you stay there, I can guarantee your and your husband's safety. Okay, I understand. The next day, Chen Zhao brought Fei Lai and Jerlin back to Mirror Lake. They'd experienced the experience here. Fei Lai and Jerlin still liked home. After all, there were people serving them at home. A group of underlings would come whenever they were called. Dell and Risfar's hotel was good, but it wasn't as convenient as home. Chen Zhao also didn't let Jerlin enter the hotel's public swimming pool. Who knew how dirty the public swimming pool was? No one knew what people left in it. Fei Lai was already 25 weeks pregnant. Her belly was already huge. Chen Zhao and Fei Lai were both looking forward to the birth of their second child. Chen Zhao also accompanied Fei Lai to do a pregnancy test. The child was very healthy. Chen Zhao didn't go out these 2 days. He just accompanied Fei Lai and Jerlin. He played the piano and read at home. To be honest, Chen Zhao didn't dare to use much strength on the heavy sword that Genkira had made for him. He was afraid that it would break accidentally. This made Chen Zhao very depressed. If he didn't use much strength, a weapon was no different from nothing. It wasn't as comfortable as swinging his fist. On the other hand, the 12 light swords forged by Dongye Tianqi were much easier to use. Chen Zhao wanted to create something like sword qi or knife qi. Just like Dongye Tianqi, he could unleash the power of his blade. However, Chen Zhao couldn't do it. This wasn't the path he was taking. Chen Zhao entered the river map and spent a lot of time there. Chen Zhao, Old Turtle said, looking at Chen Zhao. You've been here quite frequently these days. He was still fishing and cultivating his state of mind. You really brought a lot of things. I plan to forge a sword myself and start learning from the beginning. I have plenty of time anyway. I'm afraid you won't be able to learn it even if you study for the rest of your life. I have plenty of time. I'm not afraid. Some people are born unsuited for this, not to mention ordinary blacksmiths. Even skilled blacksmiths need to have the right state of mind to forge weapons. With your state of mind, you will never be able to forge a good weapon in your lifetime. Old Turtle said, that's not something time can make up for. Even if you forge for the rest of your life, you'll only become a good blacksmith. You won't become a good blacksmith. Old Turtle's words dispelled Chen Zhao's thoughts. But I just lack a good weapon right now, Chen Zhao said, depressed. Since ancient times, few people who have reached your level have lived by relying on weapons forged by others. Then what should I do? Empty-handed? At your level, creating a spell should be a piece of cake for you. Chen Zhao glanced at Old Turtle. Although he was at this level, he didn't walk the path of meditation, so he lacked basic knowledge. Chen Zhao's main focus was still the Qingyi manual. He could memorize the incantations in the manual by heart. However, he didn't know much about Taoism's thoughts and knowledge. Usually, Taoist cultivators' theoretical realms were higher than their actual realms. Right now, Chen Zhao's actual realm was higher than his theoretical realm. He couldn't create his own spell. He should study the Qingyi sect's records first. The founder of the Qingyi sect, Shangliu Qingyi, was an ultimate transformation master. Most of the records were created by Shangliu Qingyi when he was in the ultimate transformation realm. However, most of them were based on Mao Mountain spells. To put it bluntly, Shangliu Qingyi was standing on the shoulders of a giant. Although Shangliu Qingyi's realm was lower than Chen Zhao's, it didn't mean that the spells he created weren't suitable for Chen Zhao. Shangliu Qingyi was clearly a person whose theoretical realm was higher than his actual realm. Many of his spells were based on the ultimate transformation realm and looked at the Shangqing realm. These techniques could be used under the ultimate transformation realm, and they could also be used above the ultimate transformation realm. Most of the spells of the Qingyi sect were like this. Because of this, the Qingyi sect had never been famous, because the spells of the Qingyi sect looked ordinary and unremarkable. These spells were most suitable to be used in the ultimate transformation realm because they were spells that Shangliu Qingyi had created for the ultimate transformation realm or the Shangqing realm. When used below the ultimate transformation realm, their power would naturally decrease. Because of this, outsiders didn't think that the spells of the Qingyi sect were just SOO. After Shangliu Qingyi, the Qingyi sect didn't have a single ultimate transformation disciple. Chen Zhao could be counted as half, but that was all he could do. The members of the Qingyi sect had always been more theoretical than actual. For example, Li Qing's theoretical realm was even higher than Chen Zhao's. Come, sit with me for a while and calm down. Old Turtle waved his hand. Chen Zhao glanced at the Old Turtle. He couldn't sit for decades like the Old Turtle. Your biggest problem now is that you've learned too many things, Old Turtle said. Old Turtle said, you have 2 bloodlines in your body, many special abilities, the spells of the Qingyi sect, the rhythmic sword manipulation art, and the outside body incarnation. Any one of these abilities of yours is enough to stand on your own. However, you are a mixed bag. You have reached the Shangqing realm, but your strength is not there yet. Chen Zhao frowned. I've reached the realm, but why isn't my power? Ever since I understood the clarity of heaven and earth, I feel like I've become much stronger. What you feel is actual improvement. You've always focused on breaking through spells with force. So, after understanding the clarity of heaven and earth, what you feel is the improvement of your body. This feeling is the most obvious. But do you really have the power to understand the clarity of heaven and earth? Hearing this, Chen Zhao fell into deep thought. Chapter 1222. Chen Zhao had been sitting by the river for 10 days and 10 nights. After 10 days, Chen Zhao still hadn't gained anything. No wonder the ancient cultivators usually went into seclusion for 3 to 5 years. With Chen Zhao's personality, he really wasn't suitable to be a cultivator. However, Chen Zhao's greatest advantage was time. Old Turtle sat beside Chen Zhao and spoke for the first time in 10 days. To draw, you have to draw the outline. To write a book, you have to write the outline. To create a spell, you have to create the intention first. If you don't even know what intention you want to create, how are you going to do it? Intention? Chen Zhao sat for another 10 days. There were too many thoughts in Chen Zhao's mind. Too many thoughts actually delayed Chen Zhao's thinking. On the 11th day, an idea suddenly flashed through Chen Zhao's mind. Why did he think so much? His comprehension wasn't high and his Taoist theories were shallow. Thinking so much about the complicated nature of heaven and earth was just asking for trouble. He didn't need to think about whether he should pass it down or pass it on to his descendants. What he needed was a spell that was suitable for him, a spell that could fully unleash his power. It was just that simple. After thinking through this, Chen Zhao was suddenly enlightened. His thoughts spun extremely quickly. Soon an idea appeared. Suddenly, Chen Zhao split into 12 clones. Then the dark lava surged into the 12 clones and corroded them. Then the dark lava fused into Chen Zhao's real body. The 12 clones were connected by the dark lava. All of their power fused into Chen Zhao's real body. Chen Zhao felt an unprecedented surge in his body. Chen Zhao didn't know how much power he had now. But now, Chen Zhao had merged the 12 clones and his real body into one. If the clones were created after splitting, then now it was 10,000 techniques returned to one. There were no complicated operations. It was just a simple thought. With his real body as the base, Chen Zhao's power instantly multiplied. When he was in the ultimate transformation realm, Chen Zhao already had the limit of close to 200 tons of strength. After the world became clear, his body underwent a qualitative leap again. His power multiplied again. Now, with the 10,000 techniques returned to one, it multiplied again. Right now, Chen Zhao's power had reached a terrifying level. That wasn't all. If Chen Zhao received an external impact or attack, he could also transmit the impact to his clone through the dark lava. Chen Zhao's defense reached an unprecedented level. Old Turtle opened his eyes again and looked at him. What is this spell called? All techniques return to one. The name is a bit big, but it's quite appropriate for your spell. You'll have to continue perfecting it in the future. What you've done so far is enough. Chen Zhao left the river diagram. After many days of comprehension, he finally had a good result. 20 days in the river diagram was only an hour in the outside world. At the moment, there were two places that could help Chen Zhao the most. One was the river diagram. It gave Chen Zhao enough time to cultivate, and Old Turtle could teach him. The other place was the Tower of Trials, which was the place of proof. Everything Chen Zhao had learned and thought had to be proven in the Tower of Trials. Ever since Chen Zhao had comprehended the clarity of heaven and earth, he hadn't had any interest in the Tower of Trials. He hadn't entered the Tower of Trials because he had barely passed the 7th level when he was in ultimate transformation. Then, after comprehending the clarity of heaven and earth, Chen Zhao kept feeling that he was missing something. After coming out of the river diagram, Chen Zhao finally felt that he had made up for what he was missing. Then he went straight to the headquarters of the association. Without greeting anyone, he entered the Tower of Trials directly. The monster on the 7th level was a lava giant. It was also where the bronze sword had broken. That was probably Chen Zhao's toughest battle. One had to kill 1,000 lava giants in order to clear this stage. The 8th level would definitely be several times more difficult than the 7th. After entering the 8th level, Chen Zhao realized that he was on a turbulent ocean. Chen Zhao flew up and hovered above the surface of the sea. Right now, Chen Zhao's heart was as calm as still water. He allowed the waves to surge. A small world opened up, covering both the surface and the bottom. Chen Zhao didn't know where the attack would come from. Suddenly, Chen Zhao felt something approaching underwater. It had entered his small world. The next moment, a bloody mouth lunged at Chen Zhao from below. It was a huge shark, more than 30 meters long. Its 2 dorsal fins were arranged side by side like 2 rows of blades. On both sides of this huge shark's bloody mouth, there was a pair of exposed bony teeth that looked like pincers. Frenzied Ocean Demon was the shark's name. The Frenzied Ocean Demon didn't use its mouth to bite Chen Zhao. Instead, it shot out a water column. Chen Zhao quickly dodged. The water column shot up to 100 meters in the air. It was obvious how powerful it was. If Chen Zhao was hit by the water column in the air, he would probably be injured. Chen Zhao landed immediately. He charged into the frenzied ocean demon's mouth and tore it apart with brute force. One frenzied ocean demon clearly wasn't a threat to Chen Zhao. He stood on its corpse floating on the surface and gazed into the distance. Just then, the surface of the sea in the distance started rolling. It was as if thousands of soldiers were charging at Chen Zhao. It was thousands of frenzied ocean demons stirring up waves. Frenzied ocean demons were water hell creatures. One frenzied ocean demon could shoot out water spells, so it wasn't strange for thousands of them to raise huge waves. Chen Zhao took a deep breath and looked at the 10-meter-tall waves in the distance. He could totally hide in the sky. However, he'd come to the 8th level of the Tower of Trials to prove his self-created spells returned to 1. If he avoided it, it would be meaningless for him to come here. Chen Zhao immediately activated 10,000 spells returned to 1. Facing the huge wave that was surging toward him, Chen Zhao's eyes widened. The waves arrived, but the next moment, Chen Zhao was sent flying by them. Chen Zhao could feel his body crumbling. Instant kill. Dead. Chen Zhao left the Tower of Trials and was dumbfounded. He'd been too pretentious. Even he didn't expect to be instantly killed. The waves created by thousands of frenzied ocean demons weren't stacked on top of each other. Instead, they were attacking as one. It was similar to Chen Zhao's spells returned to 1. It was also the combined attack of thousands of frenzied ocean demons. No matter how strong Chen Zhao was, he couldn't fight against thousands of frenzied ocean demons alone. This was a clash of absolute power. Chen Zhao lost. He'd lost completely. He'd lost without any suspense. This was the result of being too arrogant. When Chen Zhao had comprehended spells returned to 1, he'd almost thought he was invincible. But the 8th level of the Tower of Trials had slapped him hard in the face. Although he was depressed, it also made Chen Zhao even more excited. After all, this was his true defeat. Chen Zhao had already reimagined and rearranged his strategy. He definitely couldn't fight head-on. Even spells returned to 1 couldn't fight against that level of power. So, one way to pass was to avoid the combined attack of the frenzied ocean demons and then break them apart. Chapter 1223. It was almost impossible to fight the frenzied sea demons head-on the 8th floor. Based on individual strength, a single frenzied sea demon should be able to shoot out around 30 tons of water. Then 1,000 frenzied sea demons would create a huge wave of 30,000 tons. Thousands of frenzied sea demons attacking at the same time would exceed 100,000 tons. Most importantly, when they united, they were able to concentrate all of their power. This was the scariest part about them. Unless Chen Zhao's strength and resistance could increase by 20 times, he wouldn't be killed instantly. This was clearly impossible. At least, Chen Zhao couldn't do it now. This gap was no longer a gap of 1 level, but a gap of a whole realm. Actually, if he dodged the first wave, it wouldn't be hard to break through the 8th floor. At least, Chen Zhao had the ability. It wasn't impossible to kill 1,000 frenzied sea demons. However, Chen Zhao didn't want to use a roundabout method. He hoped that he wouldn't avoid the first attack. Currently, if Chen Zhao wanted to increase his strength, he had to expand the coverage of the small world and increase the number of clones. Chen Zhao couldn't create thousands of clones like Old Turtle. Moreover, this kind of clone could create 12 clones for the first time. The next upgrade wouldn't be from 12 to 13, but multiple times. The first time he could create 12 clones. The second upgrade would create 24, the third would be 48, and the fourth would be 96. Chen Zhao's clones were formed before he reached ultimate transformation. Now that the world was clear, the quality and quantity of his magic were more than 10 times stronger than before. The problem was that the quality of his clones had also increased. It was like how Chen Zhao could afford 12 tractors in the past, but he could afford 12 supercars now. But if he wanted to buy 24 supercars, he wouldn't be able to afford it. That was the logic. It was the same for clones. Whatever. Whether it was expanding the small world or multiplying the number of clones, he couldn't do it in a short period of time. Chun Zhao planned to go to the Norton Simon Museum to see the situation there. The security at the Norton Simon Museum was very strict. Every visitor had to go through a metal detector before entering the museum. Entering the museum, Chun Zhao found the sacred eye. The sacred eye was carved into a hexagonal gem. The gemstone's milky white color was familiar, but even through the bulletproof glass, Chun Zhao could still feel a hint of holiness. Chun Zhao rubbed his eyes. Damn, isn't this holy eye angelic crystal? No one in the world was more familiar with angelic crystals than him. This should be a perfect angelic crystal. But after hundreds of years of wear and tear, this angelic crystal had lost too much of its holy aura. Chun Zhao was a bit disappointed. He'd thought it was something good and had been eyeing it for a few days. In the end, it was just this, but Chun Zhao was very happy. He had a lot of perfect angelic crystals and even super perfect angelic crystals. After Chun Zhao left the Norton Simon Museum, he did not go far. Instead, he waited for night to fall. Night gradually fell. Chun Zhao saw a modified armored vehicle charge into the museum. Then intense gunshots and explosions sounded from the museum. Chun Zhao was a bit speechless. These people were really bold. At the very least, Chun Zhao wouldn't dare to launch such a brazen attack. In less than 5 minutes, the armored vehicle appeared. After the armored car drove out of the museum, it entered the compartment of a large truck and disappeared into the night. Chun Zhao followed them all the way, but he didn't drive. Instead, he hid in the air. In order to move in the night, Chun Zhao wore a black suit today. It was very hidden in the night. Plus, he was 100 meters in the air, so it was difficult for the robbers to discover him. In the truck, a few people got off the armored vehicle. There was also a tall woman standing in the carriage. She wore a camouflage uniform and crossed her arms in front of her chest. Looking at her companion, she asked, "Benris, did you get it?" "Yes." Benris took out the holy eye. "Send that person a message," the camouflaged woman said. "He sent us a message to meet at the end of Route 22. The end of Route 22? How far is it from here? 40 kilometers from the city. It's a desert." Benris looked at the coordinates on the map and then said, "Nikki, should we prepare?" "Just do what you usually do this time," Nikki said. "Don't go overboard in case that person notices anything wrong." Half an hour later, the car reached the end of Route 22. "Drive the armored vehicle down, just in case." The armored vehicle was modified from an off-road vehicle, but its performance was very similar to an armored vehicle. It was also equipped with many military weapons, such as a 12mm machine gun and a continuous machine gun. These were all weapons that only the military could equip. It was already a small war fortress. Everyone held a machine gun and wore night vision goggles, waiting for their target to arrive. "There's no thermal imaging within a kilometer," Benris said gloomily, looking around. "Did that person give the wrong address?" "Patience," Nikki said calmly, standing on the hood of the armored vehicle. Suddenly, Nikki saw a figure walking over in the distance. "400 meters southwest," Nikki said. Benris turned in the direction Nikki was looking at, but the night vision goggles didn't find anything. It was empty. "There's nothing over there." Nikki frowned. "Take off the night vision goggles and look again." Benris pulled on the night vision goggles and looked southwest. Indeed, he saw a person walking towards them. "That's strange." He clearly saw the person with his eyes. But why couldn't the night vision goggles detect him? "Maybe he's wearing some kind of heat-blocking device," Nikki said. "Is that person a missionary?" Nikki watched the person walk closer. He was indeed dressed like a missionary. He wore a priest's gray robe and a small round hat, holding an old Bible in his hand. "Hello, lost sheep. I'm Don Tucker, your employer." Don Tucker was like a kind priest. He had a gentle smile on his face, and his tone was so gentle that it was hard to be wary. Chapter 1224. Nikki looked at Tan Tucker. Suddenly, a cold breeze blew past. Nicky's body trembled, and he became more alert. "Mr. Tucker, let's make a deal first. We've brought what you want. Where's our money?" "I didn't bring any," Tucker said with a faint smile. "Are you messing with us?" Nicky raised his gun and pointed at Tucker's forehead. "There's a box over there," Tucker said, pointing to the left. "Ben Harris, go take a look." Ben Harris walked a few steps and saw 4 big boxes in front of him. Ben Harris raised his hand but couldn't lift it. "So heavy. What's in the box?" Ben Lizzie opened the box and was instantly blinded by the dazzling golden object in front of him. "Nicky, someone come and carry it over." A few people ran over. They were also shocked by the things in the box. Gold, so much gold. Nicky was also stunned when he saw everyone carrying the 4 big boxes over. "There's 500 kilograms of gold here. I think it should be enough to pay you." Tucker smiled faintly. "You didn't say you would pay us with gold." "They had to sell the gold first, so they had to pay for it. Where's the thing I want?" Tucker didn't care about Nicky's dissatisfaction. Nicky took out the eye of holy ground and extended his hand in front of Tucker. Tucker extended his dry hand and picked up the sacred eye. A strange smile appeared on his face. Suddenly, Tucker clenched his fist and crushed the eye of the Holy Land. "You?" Tucker's smile turned cold. "It's fake." "Miss Nicky, is this how you do things?" "How can you say it's fake?" Nicky's expression turned unnatural too. Tucker's gaze was cold, as if he wanted to penetrate Nicky. "If I say it's fake, then it's fake. This is what we took from Norton Simon Museum. If you say it's fake, I don't have anything else." A murderous glint flashed in Tucker's eyes. "You think I'm easy to fool?" Tucker's face started to change, turning dark gray. A wound appeared between his brows. Just then, Nicky suddenly raised his gun and fired a shot at Tucker's forehead. The bullet hit Tucker between his eyebrows. Then, white lines started to appear on his forehead. Tucker's expression became pained. He was shocked. "How is this possible?" "You know." Nicky immediately took a few steps back. "Is it strange that the fallen of the church sold their souls to the devil?" Tucker's pained expression suddenly froze and became strange again. "Since you know who I am, then you must be Knights of the Magic Palace, right?" "That's right. We are the Knights of the Magic Palace." Tucker used his finger to dig the hole between his brows. Soon, a milky white bullet was dug out. "I didn't expect the Eye of Holiness to be in your hands. You even made it into a bullet. Did you do this to lure me?" Nicky and the rest raised their guns and pointed at Tucker. Everyone's expression became serious. How was this possible? Why didn't it work? The bullet had clearly pierced through his head. Why didn't it kill the fallen? Didn't they say that the Eye of Holiness was his nemesis? Why didn't it work? Tucker held the Eye of Holiness that had been made into a bullet. "You don't know, right? I was the one who spread the news that I was restrained by the Eye of Holiness." Tucker's smile became even more strange. "I've been waiting for the day when you personally deliver the Eye of Holiness to me. Now, my wish has finally come true." Shoot, shoot!" Nicky shouted. Everyone was pouring bullets at Tucker. A pair of demon wings suddenly extended from Tucker's back and blocked in front of him. All the bullets were blocked by the wing. Even the small caliber cannons were unharmed. Not only was Tucker unharmed, but his demon wings also grew bigger and bigger under the barrage of bullets. Soon they were as big as a wall. One had to know that their weapons and ammunition were all specially used to deal with evil creatures. They were either soaked in holy water or silver bullets. If an ordinary evil spirit was shot, it would be instantly destroyed. But not only was Tucker not injured, he became even stronger. He was absorbing the holy power contained in the attacks. "Stop! Stop!" Nicky shouted anxiously. She already knew that she was facing a terrifying monster. But in the Magic Palace's records, there was no record of Doan Tucker's abilities. The only record was that Doan Tucker was afraid of the Eye of Holiness. But they didn't expect that even this useful information was a trap in the end. Doan Tucker only moved his demon wings away after the attack stopped. He held the Eye of Holiness tightly in his hand. Nikki, what is he doing? He seems to be absorbing the holy power. How is this possible? He's a demon. A pair of flawless white wings began to extend from Doan Tucker's back. Everyone's expression changed again. How is this possible? How is this possible? The pair of wings was filled with a holy radiance. Doan Tucker's face was filled with enjoyment. His body was quickly recovering its vitality. His old body was becoming younger. At the same time, he was becoming stronger. I did it. I did it. Doan Tucker looked at his angel wings in surprise. At this time, the Eye of Holiness in his hand had been completely drained of its holy power. It turned into dust in his hand. Demon die. A knight suddenly charged at Doan Tucker. Doan Tucker raised his head to look at the knight. His white wings drew an arc in the air, stained with blood. The knight froze on the spot. His head slowly slid down. But the next moment, the knight's body suddenly exploded. Boom! The flames from the explosion engulfed Doan Tucker. Everyone looked at the center of the explosion. Doan Tucker's body was unharmed. Doan Tucker pointed. The flames from the explosion quickly shrank into a fireball and gathered in his palm. Then Doan Tucker pointed at the armored car and fired a fireball. Boom! Chapter 1225. Monster. That was the word that popped into everyone's mind. Doan Tucker ran his fingers through his blonde hair. He was in no hurry to kill the Magic Palace Knights. He was showing off his power. Just then, a whirring sound came from afar. 2 armed helicopters appeared above their heads. Da-da-da. The 2 attack helicopters launched an attack on Doan Tucker without any warning. Doan Tucker flapped his white wings. Countless beams of white light shot toward the 2 helicopters. One of the attack helicopters immediately crashed. The other one dodged the white light attack and continued to attack Doan Tucker. Doan Tucker raised his right arm. A red magic array appeared on the helicopter's wound. A bloody red hand burrowed out of the array. The helicopter's propeller shredded the hand, but the helicopter lost control and fell. Everyone's faces were filled with fear. Too powerful. This demon was too powerful. Even the most advanced weapons in modern warfare seemed so powerless in front of him. Submit to me. Doan Tucker looked at the crowd. I will grant you glory and wealth. Demon, in your dreams. Nikki refused Doan Tucker's request without hesitation. They came from the Magic Palace and had gone through countless trials. They had unwavering willpower. Perhaps they would be afraid, but fear would only make them more determined in their beliefs. Justice will prevail. Justice will prevail. Everyone was chanting their own slogan. Their eyes were filled with the determination to face death. Justice will prevail. Doan Tucker laughed. Then I will let you die in the name of justice. Doan Tucker raised a hand and opened his palm, pointing at the sky. All of you will receive the judgment of justice. Suddenly, a golden magic array appeared beneath everyone's feet. They discovered that they could not leave the array. They were all trapped within it. Above their heads, a dazzling golden inverted blade appeared. It was like the sword of Damocles pointing at their heads. I will ask you one last time. Will you submit or not? Doan Tucker shouted, but at that moment, Doan Tucker's voice suddenly paused. This was because he discovered that a golden magic array had appeared in the darkness a dozen meters away. Doan Tucker's judgment of justice covered a radius of 100 meters. In other words, as long as they were within 100 meters, everyone would have to face his judgment. A golden magic array had appeared in that shadowy place, which meant that there was another person hiding there. And this person was someone that he had never discovered. Chen Zhao was rather depressed. He didn't expect that he would be discovered like this. He was implicated for no reason at all. Originally, he planned to continue watching the show. Everyone had also noticed the golden magic array that had appeared not far away, and there was a figure inside it. Who else was here? Doan Tucker's accomplice? Or was it a third party? Moreover, it was just a dozen meters away from them in the haystack. It was so close, but they didn't notice it at all. Tan Tucker looked at him. Who are you? He didn't know. Not his accomplice. Nikki and the others thought to themselves. This man was wearing a suit and looked quite decent. He looked like a white-collar worker. Could it be someone who accidentally barged into this place? However, this was the wilderness. What was a white-collar worker doing here? Chen Zhao rubbed his nose, his expression somewhat awkward. If I said I was lost, would you believe me? Chen Zhao shrugged. Tan Tucker snorted. Do you think I'm an idiot? I'm really lost, Chen Zhao said helplessly. I don't know how I got here, either. Chen Zhao's harmless expression was really confusing. You're asking for it. Tan Tucker wasn't so easily fooled. He pressed down with his palm. The golden blade above Chen Zhao's head fell down and hit his head directly. Chen Zhao fell to the ground. Just when Tan Tucker thought that he was dead, he stood up again. Chen Zhao patted the dust off his body. Do you know that my clothes cost $2,000? Tan Tucker narrowed his eyes at Chen Zhao. You're not dead. Nikki and the others were all shocked. This man was unharmed? How did he do it? Suddenly, Tan Tucker thought of something. You're the president of the supernatural organization? The man who had 1/3 of Kong Mosa's soul? From your tone, you don't seem to respect Kong Mosa that much. To me, he's just a stepping stone, Tan Tucker said indifferently. I need his demonic power. He's useless now. I've obtained the power I need. The angelic and demonic powers have merged perfectly in my body. I don't need to pretend to serve him anymore. He's still sealed. Even if he's standing before me, I'll tell him the same thing. He can't enslave me anymore. Doan Tucker looked at Chen Zhao. But I didn't expect you to appear before me on your own. I'm easy to talk to, Chen Zhao said with a smile. Since you don't need to be loyal to Kong Mosa, we're not enemies. There's no need for war between us, right? Huh? Tan Tucker laughed. I like you, lowly, shameless human. Fine, I'll give you a chance to serve me. Chen Zhao pursed his lips. After being a dog for so long, you think you can be the master after getting a mouthful of food. It's not good to feel good about yourself. Nikki and the others were surprised by Chen Zhao's audacity. Even they had to be careful when facing Doan Tucker. But this man was insulting Tan Tucker directly. Do you know what you're saying? As expected, Doan Tucker's face turned cold and gloomy. Of course, this means we'll be enemies. Since we're enemies, why should I show respect to a dying dog? Tan Tucker pointed at Chen Zhao. A magic array appeared behind Chen Zhao. A bloody hand reached out from the array and grabbed Chen Zhao. Human, looks like I have to tell you that you must show respect to an enemy you can't defeat. Chapter 1226. Everyone thought that Chen Zhao was just bragging. He'd already been caught, but he was still boasting shamelessly. Wearing a cruel smile, Tan Tucker said, I admire your arrogance, but I hate your ignorance. So die. Tan Tucker clenched his fists. The bloody hand that was grabbing Chen Zhao also tightened. Ah! Chen Zhao screamed. Ow, ow. I'm dying. I'm dying. Chen Zhao stuck out his tongue and tilted his neck. He was silent. Everyone suddenly had a funny feeling. It was rare to see someone die in such a funny way. Just when everyone thought that Chen Zhao was dead, Chen Zhao suddenly straightened his neck and opened his eyes. Chen Zhao suddenly straightened his neck and opened his eyes. I'm alive again. The only one who didn't enjoy Chen Zhao's performance was probably Tan Tucker. Tan Tucker could feel that Chen Zhao was playing with him. He grabbed at Chen Zhao at the same time. For magic formations appeared around Chen Zhao. For bloody hands reached out at the same time and grabbed Chen Zhao's limbs. The 4 bloody hands pulled in different directions, as if they wanted to dismember Chen Zhao. However, after pulling for a long time, they still couldn't dismember Chen Zhao. By the way, did you learn how to massage? Your technique is really good at loosening tendons and activating arteries. Chen Zhao's tone was teasing. This infuriated Tan Tucker quite a bit. Right now, Tan Tucker was like an erupting volcano. Die! A huge magic formation appeared above Chen Zhao's head. Large amounts of red, filthy water surged out of the formation. The filthy water came from the blood river in hell. There were also countless evil spirits in it. They completely covered Chen Zhao. Everyone's expressions changed. Being bitten and eaten by evil spirits was the most painful way to die. Suddenly, a beam of white light shone from the center. In an instant, all the evil spirits were wiped out, and all the filthy water evaporated in an instant. Chen Zhao stood there unscathed. No, he wasn't completely unscathed. His neat suit was now in a mess. He looked like a beggar's gang member. He didn't die. How did this guy do it? Nikki's face was filled with disbelief. This was a wizard. How could he be so strong? After all, Nikki was a witch. However, because she had awakened on the first night, her talent was very low. Later, she did not have much potential in magic and eventually turned to become a knight. Because she had a certain magic foundation, she was like a fish in water after turning into a knight. Because of this, she knew that magic required talent, especially for wizards. Wizards were several times weaker than witches, and most wizards only knew 1 or 2 spells in their lifetime. However, the man in front of her was clearly an anomaly. You made me lose $2,000. Chen Zhao adjusted his collar. Chen Zhao looked at the chest of gold in the distance and walked toward it. He picked up a piece of gold and looked at it. Fuck, demon gold. Chen Zhao kicked the box over angrily. Tan Tucker's face darkened. This guy was harder to deal with than he had imagined. His repeated attacks had actually left him completely unscathed. It seemed that he had to get serious. Chen Zhao walked toward Dian Tucker. Dian Tucker immediately retreated. He was a mage-type demon, so he didn't like people approaching him, especially when the other party was an enemy. Tan Tucker cast another spell. Gold Domain. Just then, dozens of golden chains appeared in the air and tied Chen Zhao up like a dumpling. But in the next instant, all the golden chains were broken. Tan Tucker retreated again and cast another spell. Holy Barrier. Chen Zhao swung his fist, and the holy barrier shattered like a mirror. By then, Chen Zhao had already approached Tan Tucker. Tan Tucker's demon and angel wings enveloped Chen Zhao at the same time. Chen Zhao opened his arms and grabbed the demon and angel wings. A cruel smile appeared on Chen Zhao's face. Tan Tucker's expression suddenly turned ugly. He realized that he couldn't move his wings. He couldn't even pull them back. Tan Tucker pressed his palms against Chen Zhao's chest. Destructive blast. Boom! Amidst the huge explosion, Chen Zhao still held onto Tan Tucker's wings tightly. Are you tickling me? The edges of Tan Tucker's angel wings suddenly turned into sharp blades. But the next moment, Chen Zhao increased his strength and crushed Tan Tucker's angel wings. Ah! Tan Tucker finally let out a pained cry. Chen Zhao pulled hard, and the angel wings were forcibly pulled off Tan Tucker's back. Ah! Stop! Stop! I'm a lover of peace. Why don't you respect my choice? Chen Zhao put his hand on Tan Tucker's shoulder. I accept. I accept your suggestion. I choose to be in peace with you. Chen Zhao tightened his grip, and Tan Tucker's shoulder was crushed. I refuse. You've already refused me once, so we're enemies now. Ah, stop! Chen Zhao pulled with his right arm, and the demon wings were also torn off. I hate being rejected. Chen Zhao's palm pierced through Tan Tucker's chest and pulled out a rib bone. Nikki and the others stared at Chen Zhao, dumbfounded. This man was so scary. Was he torturing Tan Tucker now? Who was Don Tucker? He was an ancient demon from thousands of years ago. He was second only to Kan's Mosa. He was the commander of the demon army. But right now, he was being tortured by this man in such a cruel way. Let me go. I'm willing to submit to you, monster. You monster. Don Tucker kept screaming in pain. It only took him a short time to go from begging to cursing. Right now, Tan Tucker was covered in blood. His wings had already been torn off and tossed aside. A few rib bones that had been pulled out from his body were on the ground. But this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. Chen Zhao was using an even crueler method to treat him. Skin him. That's right. After skinning Bostel, another commander of the demon army was going to be tortured like this. Everyone was shocked by Chen Zhao's cruelty. The bloody body was tossed on the ground. Tan Tucker wasn't dead yet. At the very least, from his screams, it was clear that he was still very energetic. However, when his body came into contact with the sand, the pain it brought stimulated his pain nerves. Chen Zhao held Tan Tucker's freshly skinned skin in his hand. I curse you! I curse you! Tan Tucker's curse took effect, but it disappeared in an instant. Chapter 1227. On the ground, Don Tucker started convulsing. His body arched in pain. Suddenly, Don Tucker's body surged with terrifying power. It was formed by mixing demonic power and holy power. The power gathered into a human shape before Chen Zhao. This human-shaped energy body was very unstable. Its limbs were spread out, and the surrounding spiritual energy of the world was attracted by this energy body. As the spiritual qi of heaven and earth continued to fill the energy body, the human-shaped energy body became even more irritable. It seemed like it would explode at any moment. Run! Nikki yelled. The other knights turned and ran with Nikki. Facing the energy, Chen Zhao fell into deep thought. The complicated energy gave Chen Zhao another idea. Holy power and demonic power mixed together could produce such powerful energy. Then, what if he extracted the holy power from the angelic crystal, mixed it with his own demonic power, and then shot it out with the mouth of gluttony? Nikki and the others ran a few hundred meters away. Then, a terrifying shock wave came from behind. At the same time, a huge shock wave swept Nikki and the others away. Benris, are you okay? I'm fine. How about you? My arm's too short, Nikki said in pain. When she'd been sent flying by the shock wave, she'd hit a rock. But this kind of injury was acceptable. Looking back, the explosion had already stopped. The explosion had come and gone quickly. That guy's not dead, right? He was so close and didn't try to run at all. I'm afraid he could have run away, Nikki said. That guy was too arrogant. They'd had more than 10 seconds to react. Nikki and the others could run more than 100 meters away. There was no reason the guy couldn't. Should we go take a look? Let's go. When they arrived at the center of the explosion, there was a 10-meter wide crater. One could imagine how terrifying the shockwave had been. It was impossible for humans to survive the impact of such an explosion. There were no signs of life here, which proved their speculation. The guy was dead. He'd died because of his arrogance. However, the person they thought was dead had already left the scene. Chen Zhao went to the headquarters at night and pulled Jalig and Padalu out of their sleep. The two of them complained incessantly, but there was nothing they could do. The smell of blood still lingered on Chen Zhao's body. They didn't even dare to let out a fart. He could only follow Chen Zhao's request. For the entire night, Chen Zhao either stayed in the workshop with them or helped them with their work. It was not until early in the morning that the three of them came out of the workshop. Let's go and have some breakfast. The headquarters cafeteria started serving breakfast very early, and the ones in charge of breakfast were all evil spirits. They were very active at night, and they didn't stay in bed like humans. However, West, who came for breakfast, was surprised to see Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao was having breakfast at HQ? Did that mean that Chen Zhao came last night and didn't go home? That was quite rare. Usually, Chen Zhao would go home to rest no matter how late he was. Morning, President. West greeted him with a bowl of soy milk. Because of Chen Zhao's eating habits, even the evil spirits in charge of food had to follow his requests. They even knew how to cook some of the China's specialties. Morning. Guild leader, were you at the headquarters the entire night? Yes, I'm busy with some things. Guild leader, are you worried about the invasion of the demon army that Rupert mentioned? Yes, but there's nothing to worry about, Chen Zhao said calmly. I've already thought of a solution. Guild leader, are you confident? At the beginning, we didn't have a 50% chance, Chen Zhao said. But after last night, we have at least a 90% chance. West couldn't help but be delighted. He'd been troubled by this for the past few days, but hearing Chen Zhao's words, he was finally relieved. To be honest, Chen Zhao might not be afraid if they really had to fight to the death. When Chen Zhao was dealing with the mother, he'd obtained a large number of old artillery shells from the underground base. Those weapons were all from the 60s and 70s. If Chen Zhao really took them out, it would definitely be enough to destroy the demon army. But if they exploded at the same time, both the headquarters and the people would be affected. But now, Chen Zhao had thought of a safer method, a method that hurt the enemy without harming himself. West trusted Chen Zhao. Since Chen Zhao said he had a solution, the danger was most likely over. After dealing with the matters at the headquarters, Chen Zhao went home. He entered the river map as soon as he got home. His goal was to test his new idea, of course. He would mix the holy power of angelic crystals with demonic power and release it with the mouth of gluttony. Chen Zhao even gave it a very old-fashioned name, Demon Cannon. Hearing that Chen Zhao had a new move, Old Turtle was also interested. After all, Chen Zhao had just created spells Return to One. If it was a normal spell, Chen Zhao probably wouldn't be interested. Since it could make him go to the river diagram to try out new spells, it shouldn't be much weaker than 10,000 techniques Return to One. Chen Zhao first stuffed a perfect angelic crystal into the mouth of Gluttony and chewed it. Most of the time, hybrid demons were weaker than pure-blooded demons, but they weren't absolutely weak. Angelic crystals could suppress pure-blooded demons, but they wouldn't hurt hybrid demons. This was also a characteristic of hybrid demons. They had human blood in their bodies. It was this human blood that prevented hybrid demons from being harmed by holy power. Theoretically, Chen Zhao and Gaia were both hybrid demons, but Gaia was a natural hybrid demon, while Chen Zhao was a half-baked demon. So, angelic crystals wouldn't harm Chen Zhao. But when Chen Zhao mixed the demonic power and holy power together, the terrifying power started spreading. It was also extremely unstable. Chen Zhao forcefully suppressed it, but in less than 3 seconds, he felt that something was wrong. The mouth of Gluttony opened and a terrifying power burst out. A ditch appeared in the area 30 to 40 meters in front of him. No, it looked powerful, but the energy was too scattered. This kind of impact wouldn't be effective in a battle of the same level. He had to adjust the angle of the eruption and the size of the mouth of Gluttony. Also, the energy was released too quickly. It wasn't compressed at all. This was also an important reason for the spread. The more the energy was compressed, the stronger the explosion. Chapter 1228. Chen Zhao kept trying. Old Turtle also gave him pointers from the side. After trying more than 10 times, Chen Zhao used up a lot of mana. After all, the Demon God Cannon required a lot of mana each time it was fired, but practice made perfect. He only needed to try it many times to form muscle memory. Chen Zhao finally grasped the correct way to open the demon god cannon. This was Chen Zhao's next killer move after 10,000 techniques returned to one. For Chen Zhao, angelic crystals were obtained much faster than the consumption. Angelic crystals were obtained by killing evil spirits or demons in the human world. The more powerful the demon or evil spirit, the purer the angelic crystal. Last year, Chen Zhao had obtained as many angelic crystals as the number of battles he experienced. In the upcoming battle, Chen Zhao would obtain even more angelic crystals. Don Tucker is dead. Bustil is also dead. Sibylla's expression was serious. The image of that Chinese man popped up in her mind. Apart from that man, she couldn't think of anyone else with this ability. Even though there were no clues that Don Tucker and Bustil's deaths were related to Chen Zhao, Sibylla still firmly believed that the two commanders' deaths were directly related to Chen Zhao. Even so, Sibylla still firmly believed that the two commanders' deaths were directly related to Chen Zhao. That bitch Arrow isn't willing to help. There's only Eden now. Eden probably can't completely lead the demon army. Looks like I have to change the plan. Sibylla's eyes flickered. Just then, Maheji and Fei Sha walked in. There was a metal box floating beside Maheji. "Teacher, it's your goods again." "Yes, open the box," Sibylla said. Maheji and Fei Sha both knew that it was definitely a cyborg like X9. With a wave of her hand, the metal box's lid was opened. Just like X9, this cyborg also had a big X tattoo on its chest. Sibylla walked to the metal box and started casting a spell to wake the cyborg. Soon, the cyborg woke up. When it opened its eyes, it was very calm. It didn't attack them like when X9 woke up. "What's your name?" "I'm X71. "You know X9, right? He's a low-end product of the company. My performance is far better than his." X71 answered. "How much better?" "X9 is only at the 5th stage of Agent X awakening. I'm at the 7th stage. In terms of comprehensive performance, I'm 12 times better than him." "Fei Sha, why don't you test his combat strength?" X71 looked at Sibylla. "How far do I need to go?" "You, or she will lose the ability to move." Suddenly, X71 launched an attack on Faith. Fei Sha was stunned. "Wait, it hasn't started yet." Before Fei Sha could react, X71 was already in front of her, its palm slashing toward Fei Sha's shoulder. Ah! Fei Sha's collarbone was immediately shattered. Fei Sha screamed and fell to the ground. "All right, stop it, X71. Sibylla frowned and said, "Fei Sha, you're too useless. Mahage, come and practice with X71. Mahage raised her finger, and the metal box suddenly flew toward X71. X71 was sent flying, but he quickly opened the metal box and stood up again. X71 was about to attack again, but Mahage hooked her finger, and the metal box behind X71 flew up again and slammed into X71's back. The metal box twisted and bound X71, but X71 struggled to free himself from the iron sheet binding him. It wouldn't be long before he broke the iron sheet. But at this moment, Sibylla suddenly appeared behind Mahage and reached out to press the back of Mahage's head. Mahage's expression was calm as usual, and she slashed a piece of metal at Sibylla. Sibylla's heart skipped a beat and immediately retreated to avoid the attack. "Mahage, you're actually guarding against me?" Mahage's expression was cold from beginning to end. "I can't help it. You're my teacher, so I have to be careful." X71, catch her! X71 struggled to break free from the metal sheet and rushed toward Mahage. Suddenly, the house they were building was smashed open and a car flew in. It crashed into X71. This was the car they often used, and it was parked in front of their house. Mahage had always been calm in battle. "When did you start guarding against me?" Mahage smiled coldly, and the house began to fall apart. Steel beams shot toward Sibylla from all directions, and Mahage took the opportunity to escape. Sibylla was her teacher, after all. With Mahage's strength, she couldn't fight her head-on. Moreover, there was still X-71, so Sibylla had no chance of winning. Sibylla didn't pursue because she had to protect Faisha. Sibylla helped Faisha up. "Are you okay?" Although Faisha didn't understand why Sibylla suddenly attacked Mahage, she was very happy. "Teacher, you should have killed Mahage a long time ago." "Yes." Sibylla nodded. "I should have done it a long time ago instead of waiting until now." Sibylla suddenly poked Faisha's forehead with her finger. In an instant, Faisha couldn't move, and her body fell straight to the ground. "Teacher, what are you doing? Let me go." "Don't worry, you'll be free soon." Sibylla had a faint smile on her face. "Teacher, please don't joke with me, I'm your student." Faisha suddenly felt fear. She didn't know what Sibylla was going to do, but she had a bad feeling about it. X-71, come here and lie down next to Faisha. X-71 lay down next to Faisha without any objections. Sibylla began to cast her magic. She began to undo the seal on Faisha's body. Faisha's body began to tremble violently, and black gas seeped out of her mouth, nose, and ears. The black gas converged into a ferocious face in the air. Sibylla guided the black gas into X-71's body. "Master, please stay in this body for the time being. The demon army needs your supreme authority to command." Faisha's life was also drained away as the seal was undone. This wasn't what she had planned. This was completely different from what Sibylla had told her. But there was nothing she could do. X-71 opened her eyes again and looked at Sibylla. Sibylla knelt in front of X-71. "Master." X-71 looked at her body and was also familiarizing herself with it. "Why do I need to undo the seal now? My soul isn't complete yet, and where's my own body?" "Master, Doan Tucker is dead, Bustel is also dead, and Arrow has betrayed you. Only Eden is left, but Eden alone isn't enough to completely control the demon army and take your soul. So you need to personally lead the demon army." At this time, X-71 was no longer the original cyborg. He was Kensmasa. Chapter 1229. Today, LA was covered in dark clouds. Dark clouds rolled in the sky. Chen Zhao looked at the sky. He didn't look too good either. It was obvious that something big was about to happen. Just then, Chen Zhao's phone rang. "Hey, Chen, something's wrong." "Kong Mosa has revived," Rupert said in a panic. "What? How is that possible?" "He just killed Doan Tucker last night." Chen Zhao had thought that he would have the upper hand in the battle. But in less than 12 hours, Rupert brought him terrible news. But Rupert had only stayed in the headquarters for a short time. How could Kong Mosa revive? "Kong Mosa didn't completely revive," Rupert said. "Only 1/3 of his soul. Also, he didn't revive himself. He's relying on someone else's body." "Oh, just 1/3 of his soul. What's there to worry about?" "Chin, the point is if Kong Mosa is resurrected, the demon army will gather. Thomas Bailey, who's locked in the dungeon now, is about to lose control. The evil voice is echoing in his head again," Chen Zhao said. Thomas Bailey had come to the headquarters to hide, but Chen Zhao didn't trust him completely, so he'd locked him in the dungeon. Had the difficulty increased again? It seemed that the battle would start before the 15th. Chen Zhao looked at the dark sky. This phenomenon had happened twice. First, when Es God came and reigned for many days. The other time was the projection of Abaddon, the demon king of plague and death. These powerful demons and mutants always seemed to be able to cause such phenomena. While Chen Zhao was talking to Rupert, a figure appeared at his door. "Mahage." Chen Zhao narrowed his eyes and looked at Mahage. Although they were enemies, Chen Zhao believed that she wasn't here to die. Chen Zhao walked to the door and looked at Mahage. "Did your teacher send you to declare war on me?" "No," Mahage said. "I escaped from Sibylla. Do you think I'll believe you?" Chen Zhao asked calmly. Mahage stared at Chen Zhao. This was her third time seeing him. The first time, she'd thought he was an ordinary person. But the second time, she was shocked by how terrifying he was. Chen Zhao had killed the demon spirit right in front of everyone. Also, from their second encounter, she could tell that Chen Zhao's temper wasn't very good. Therefore, she wasn't confident about appearing before him on her own. I'm here to inform you that Kang's Mosa and his demon army will invade tomorrow. Again, why should I believe you? Kang Mosa is currently residing in a human's body. It is impossible for him to live in a human's body for long, and his body is not complete, so he can only reside in a human's body for 3 days at most. First, he needs to familiarize himself with the body and recover his strength. Tomorrow, he should be able to temporarily recover to his peak state, and then he will begin to weaken, so he will definitely choose to attack when he is at his strongest. And after tomorrow, his strength will begin to weaken, Mahage said. Chen Zhao stared at Mahage. He was still skeptical of her words. It was still the same question. How could Chen Zhao believe it? Do you think Kang Mosa can recover to his peak with 1/3 of his soul and not even his own body? That's right. Mahage nodded. How did he do it? Because of his demon army, Mahage said. Demon army. Demon army. Mahage pointed at the rolling clouds in the sky. There is a certain connection between the demon armies, and when they gather in one place, they will influence each other and release powerful demon power. If it's only the demon power of 1 or 2 demons, it won't cause much of an effect, but the demon power of close to 1,000 demons is something he can't contend against. The reason why Kang Mosa created the demon army was because he wanted to use the demon army to transform into the great demon king. You didn't come to tell me, right? I want to take Kang Mosa's soul in my body for myself, Mahage said. Chen Zhao looked at Mahage meaningfully. This woman had the same goal as Rupert. I heard that your teacher has a way to separate the host soul from Kang Mosa's. That's just a lie to Rupert, Mahage said. Mahage said, from the moment Kang Mosa was sealed in our bodies, it was impossible for us to separate. My teacher's original goal wasn't to seal him, but rather because Kang Mosa's soul had been sealed for 1,000 years and was already very weak. Even without the attacks of the other witches, he wouldn't be able to survive for long. So she sealed Kang Mosa's soul in our bodies. In fact, it was fused with our souls. It is said that this spell is an Eastern supplement, using us to repair Kang Mosa's soul. If it was at the beginning of the seal, and our souls hadn't completely fused, then we could still be separated. But now, killing Kang Mosa's soul is killing us. So either Kang Mosa assimilated you, or you assimilated Kang Mosa? That's right. Kang Mosa isn't a good person, but his knowledge isn't completely useless. There's also his demonic power. For me, this is an opportunity. Mahage paused. Mahage paused for a moment before continuing. Up until now, we and Kang Mosa have been unable to completely assimilate each other. This is because our bodies are ours and we have our own wills. Kang Mosa's soul is too powerful, even if it's only 1/3 of his soul. The only weak one is Rupert. Originally, Sibylla hoped that Rupert would be the first to be completely assimilated by Kang Mosa, and then the 2 of us. However, Rupert was frozen by her teacher for 20 years, and even Kang Mosa's soul in her body fell into a deep slumber for 20 years. This caused Sibylla's plan to be delayed for 20 years. Then, how are you going to assimilate Kang Mosa? You haven't been able to completely assimilate him in 20 years. Can you do it now or in the future? As long as you kill the part of Kang Mosa that has been resurrected, once his soul is incomplete, the other 2 parts will also weaken. Then Rupert and I will have a chance. What's in it for me? I know where Kang Mosa's body is hidden by the demon army. I can use the hiding place of Kang Mosa's body in exchange. What do you think I'll use the body of a demon for? Chapter 1230. She left. Chen Zhao didn't stop her. She didn't provide much information, but she didn't provide much either. Chen Zhao looked at the sky. Suddenly, a thought appeared in his mind. Chen, Isn't that woman a guest? No. Is she an enemy? I'm not sure. Is something going to happen? Fei Lai asked. Chun Zhao and Fei Lai didn't hide anything, so he told her about Rupert. Is that girl already in her 20s? Fei Lai's focus seemed a bit strange. I'll go to the headquarters with Jerlin, so you don't have to worry about both sides. Qin Zhao was stunned. He hadn't thought about this before. Subconsciously, he thought that a war was about to start. No matter the outcome, the headquarters wouldn't be safe. But Fei Lai's words were indeed a solution. At least he would be more at ease if Fei Lai and Jerlin were under his watch. Okay. Chen Zhao thought for a moment and agreed to Fei Lai's suggestion. The pets at home were also not to be underestimated. Of course, if Fei Lai and Jerlin were at the headquarters, he had to be more careful and treat the upcoming war more seriously. The underlings started helping Fei Lai and Jerlin pack their luggage. Chun Zhao also brought some underlings to the headquarters. After arriving at the headquarters, Chen Zhao brought Jerlin to meet Evans. Evans, come and meet your sister, little Jerlin. Hi, brother Evans. Little Jerlin had a cheerful personality. Comparatively speaking, Evans, who was slightly older, was much more shy. Hi. Little Jerlin took the initiative to run to Evans and held his hand. Brother Evans, let's go play. Okay. Chun Zhao also hoped that Jerlin's cheerfulness could help Evans walk out of the darkness. After all, he and Gaia were both adults. They had their own worldviews, so they might not be able to help Evans. Little Jerlin might be a good breakthrough. Chun Zhao went to check on the preparations of every member. Just then, Chun Zhao's other phone rang. It was the handsome boy. Chun Zhao picked up and the boy asked, Chun Zhao, when are you coming to hell? I'm going to face a great enemy in the next 2 days. After dealing with this enemy, I'll go to hell. Oh, then you'd better hurry up. The Mana Tide is coming soon. If you miss it, the next Mana Tide will be 13 years later. What is the Mana Tide? This is a natural climate in hell. Every 13 years, there will be a magic wave that covers most of hell. During the magic wave, the elements here will be dozens of times denser than usual. Every 13 years, a large number of demons will have a significant increase in strength. This is also an opportunity for you. By the way, let me ask you something. My cultivation system is Taoism. Right now, I'm in the emptiness of heaven and earth. In our Taoism realm, we'll form a small world. Do you understand? Of course, a small portion of intermediate demons have a similar realm, but we call it the demon domain. The handsome boy said, but not all demons can enter because the bloodline of many demons determines their height. They might never reach the demon domain, so some demons will use special methods to enter the demon domain. The enemy I'm facing right now first created many demons, and then he can form a connection with them. This is the most common way to enter the demon domain. In terms of levels, the two of you should be in the same realm. However, the other party relied on external forces to reach this realm, while you relied on your own strength to enter. So, there is still a fundamental difference between the two of you. You should be able to kill the other party easily. The key problem is his demon army. Do you remember the destructive power you absorbed through that spell last time? You can release the destructive power, and the demon army can be easily killed by you, including your enemy. But I still have my family, friends, and subordinates by my side. Then there's another way. I've thought of one, the handsome boy said. The handsome young man said, receive the magic I'm giving you. This magic is a passive magic. It doesn't do any damage, but it can erode this unstable demonic domain. By the way, you have the bloodline of gluttony, right? Yes. Okay, I've already created a spell for you. Qin Zhao was speechless. He'd been cultivating for so long and had to think hard to think of a suitable spell for him. But the handsome boy only paused for a moment and had already thought of a suitable spell for him. When Qin Zhao opened the file the handsome boy had given him, golden, red, and black lines shot out of the screen and entered Qin Zhao's forehead. Instantly, a lot of information appeared in Qin Zhao's mind. Oh, the Tower of Trials I made for you is also a weapon. At least, it's harder than most weapons in the human world. Qin Zhao's heart jumped. This meant that he could use the Tower of Trials as a weapon if he shrunk it to a certain size. After communicating with the handsome boy, Qin Zhao was even more confident. After hanging up, Qin Zhao continued inspecting the headquarters and the surrounding Fangyu. Just then, Pan En and Eric dragged a demon out of the forest. The demon was more than 3 meters tall and strong. It had a green face and sharp fangs. It kept struggling in Pan, En, and Eric's hands. "President, look what we caught." Chen Zhao was surprised. "Where did you catch it?" "In the forest." "Lowly humans, my master has already descended. You're not far from death." The demon roared. Chen Zhao had an idea. He could use it to try the spell the handsome boy had taught him. Chen Zhao tapped the demon's forehead with his finger. In an instant, the demon's soul was extracted. Then the evil spirit's soul started disintegrating in Chen Zhao's small world. President, why don't you keep it for interrogation?" Pan En and Eric didn't expect Chen Zhao to kill the demon directly. Chen Zhao also didn't expect the spell to kill the demon so easily, but the demon was really weak. Chen Zhao's small world absorbed the demon, but didn't feel anything at all. Increase the vigilance. The demon army is coming, either today or tomorrow. Then we'll go patrol again, Pan En said. Be careful. If you can't beat them, run to the headquarters. Actually, the headquarters defenses were already very tight. Apart from Pan En and Eric, there were all kinds of equipment in the surrounding forest. Chapter 1231. A car was driving on the road in the woods under the night sky. There were several university students in the car. "Jill, where are we going?" the only woman in the car asked the student who was driving. "A few days ago, someone found a big footprint here and posted the picture on the internet. I think there might be a Bigfoot monster here." They were all students from California Institute of Technology, and they were also members of the Paranormal Society. To put it bluntly, it was a concentration camp for a group of Chinibu patients. They always fantasized about the third type of contact and the fourth type of contact. The third type of contact was known as extraterrestrial civilization, and the fourth type of contact was supernatural events. Apart from completing his studies, he would be running around everywhere. Wherever there was a strange event, he would participate in it. Could it be another prank? I analyzed the footprint with LA calculation. The pattern is clear and doesn't seem to be man-made. LA calculation was mostly used by the police to investigate cases. Through LA calculation, they could calculate the height, weight, and even physical condition of some footprints. Everyone knew that Jill was a computer expert. His most impressive record was that he once hacked into the president's office to find information about Area 51. But he failed. Of course, although he failed, he escaped unscathed. Although Jill wasn't the best hacker, this was enough to make him proud. It's so dark tonight. There's no moonlight at all. There aren't even street lights on this road. Jill stopped the car and picked up the map. That's strange. Logically speaking, this should be the end of the road. Ahead should be the woods. Why is there still a road? Let's go forward and see, Prague said. What do you think? Let's go forward. We've already gone so far. We can't turn back now. Everyone had the same opinion. They all continued forward. But after the car stopped, it was difficult to start it again. Jill's car was secondhand. It was already very old when he bought it. He bought it for only $1,000. Usually, members of the Paranormal Society relied on this car to travel around. They often had problems, but they didn't expect that there would be a problem here. The car couldn't start. Let me go and take a look. Jill got out and opened the front cover to check, but after 20 minutes, he still found nothing. Hey, you guys, can you come down and help? I can't do it alone. The 4 people in the car also got off. Prague, do you want a cigarette? Prague shook his head. That's why I rejected your pursuit. I hate men who smoke. All right, Sormans shrugged helplessly. Neither of them knew how to repair cars, so they stood by the side of the road and looked at the dark forest. Suddenly, Prague took 2 steps forward. "What's that?" Sormans scrutinized the dark forest. "It looks like a wild beast. Maybe it's the Bigfoot monster we're looking for." Prague laughed. "The car is fixed. We can continue our journey," Jill said. Everyone returned to the car, and the car continued to move. But after a few steps, the car suddenly jerked. A black shadow slammed heavily into the car. The car immediately veered off the road and crashed into a tree by the roadside. "What's going on? How are you guys?" "I'm fine. What happened just now?" "We were hit by something. Fortunately, they were driving very slowly. After all, it was an old car and had just started, so it couldn't go fast. But just then, there was a sudden thud on the roof as if something had landed on it. The roof was dented, and a few sharp claws pierced through the dent. The claws were slowly tearing open the roof. Everyone in the car was shocked. Soon, the roof was cut open by the thing above, and the roof was completely lifted. Everyone finally saw what it was. It was a 3-meter-tall monster. The monster's head looked like a Shar-Pei, and its mouth emitted a foul stench. Its eyes were red, and there was a tail behind it. What scared them even more was that there was a human face on the monster's tail. The monster's tail reached into the car. The face on the tail looked at the martial artists and revealed a strange smile. The 5 people in the car were so scared that they almost peed their pants. 5 humans, not bad. The face on the monster's tail made a horrifying sound. Suddenly, Jill took out a gun from somewhere and fired at the face on the monster's tail. Bang! The face was smashed, but it quickly recovered. But the monster was furious. It grabbed Jill, dragged her out of the car, and bit her neck. Blood splattered on the people in the car. Everyone was scared out of their wits and immediately ran out of the car. But they only ran a few steps when they saw a few more monsters appear in 2 directions. Each of these monsters had a different form, but each one of them was terrifying. This was the 4th type of contact that they had been dreaming of. Supernatural creatures. They were right in front of them. But at this moment, they didn't feel any joy or excitement. There was only fear, because they weren't as good as they had imagined. They ate people. Just then, a rustling sound came from the darkness. The monsters also heard this sound and looked in the direction of the sound. The monster on the roof dropped Jill's body and looked warily into the darkness. Suddenly, a 10-meter-long purple python rushed out of the darkness and bit the monster on the roof. The other monsters wanted to escape, but a green lion rushed out from another direction and slapped one of the monsters to the ground. It was Payne and Eric. They were in charge of night patrols around the headquarters. Then they received an order from West, saying that a few children were attacked by demons lurking nearby. The purple python was transformed from Pan N, while Eric transformed into a green lion. The 4 people who didn't know what was going on were so scared that they curled up on the ground. They watched the 2 terrifying beasts fight the monsters. However, it was obvious that both the purple python and the green lion were stronger than these monsters. But they weren't normal creatures either. At least, there were no wild African lions in the American continent, and they were green. Payne swung his tail, and a demon was sent flying. In just 2 or 3 moves, these monsters were almost wiped out. Seeing that the situation wasn't good, another demon turned to escape. Chapter 1232. Everyone looked and realized that it was a tall woman. Gaia had just gotten off work and was on her way to the headquarters when she saw the battle. She saw Payne and Eric fighting, so she came over to help. Prague and the others all looked at Gaia in shock. The woman was tall, but compared to the monster, she was half the size. However, she was strangling the monster's neck. No matter how much the monster struggled, it was useless. Just then, Payne and Eric's battle had ended. They each killed a demon and captured one alive. When Payne and Eric turned into humans, Prague and the others were all dumbfounded. Their faces were full of shock. They were humans. What was going on? Was it magic? Who are those people? Gaia pointed at Prague and the others. I don't know. Bring them back for interrogation, Gaia said. After all, it was before the war. Who knew if they had other intentions? These kids didn't look like it, but who knew if they were just trying to hurt themselves? Prague and the others were brought to the headquarters. When they entered, they saw two kids riding on giant black and white wolves. They were playing on the lawn in front. Auntie Gaia! Jerlin was the first to see Gaia. She immediately asked Black Ma to rush over. Evans also ran up. When Gaia saw the two little guys, she immediately smiled. Jerlin, why are you here? Dad said that Brother Evans has no one to play with, so he asked me to play with him. Gaia's face showed a rare gentleness. She saw that Evans's face also showed a long-lost cheerfulness, which made Gaia even happier. Prague and the others looked at the building before them carefully, feeling uncertain. Why are you standing? Go in. Payne pushed a boy. The 4 students were brought into the front hall. Mr. West, when we arrived, one was dead. We only brought back 4 and caught 3 demons. West looked at Prague and the others. Tell us your names and identities. Sir, we're students from Caltech. I'm Prague. I'm Philip. Zoe's. Griffin. Why are you here? West looked at the 4 young people. I don't want to hurt you. West said, but if our president doesn't get a satisfactory answer, he will intervene. You definitely don't want to see our president. We're really students from Caltech. We're from the Paranormal Society. We're here to find Bigfoot. What proof do you have? Everyone looked at each other. What proof could they have? They had never thought that such a thing would happen. No, they hadn't even considered the possibility that they would encounter the 4th type of contact. We've already told you our identities. What else do you want to know? Although the 4 young people were very anxious and their emotions were a little out of control. But West was still unhurried. He asked the same questions over and over again. At this time it was already late. It was quiet outside the headquarters. Let's stop here. West stood up and said, I'll take you to your accommodations. When can we leave? Not tonight, not tomorrow. Before I confirm your identities, none of you can leave this place. We are just students, but you intruded into our territory. We intruded by accident. We didn't know. Everyone has to be responsible for their own actions. You're all adults. The 4 of them spent the night anxiously. The next morning, they came out of their rooms. No one cared about them. They didn't know that they had actually been accompanied by 4 evil spirits last night. The environment here was very beautiful. There was a huge lake and a sea of trees beside it. If it weren't for the special situation they were in, they would probably be relaxing right now and having a good rest here. Just then, they saw West walking over. Did you miss breakfast? No. Where did you eat? The cafeteria. West brought them to the cafeteria. When they saw the evil spirits floating in the cafeteria, the 4 of them almost peed their pants. You saw the demon last night. Are you still afraid of evil spirits? West glanced at the 4 of them. Sir, when can we leave? If everything goes well, tomorrow. What if it doesn't? Prague looked at West anxiously. Forever. Do you see those bastards? They're the ones who will be locked here forever. Prague's expression stiffened. What did they do wrong? Nothing, West said. They just offended our president. This was the 2nd time Prague and the others had heard West mention their president. Cough, cough. West heard coughing behind him. He turned around and saw Chun Zhao and Fei Lai enter the cafeteria. President. Everyone looked at Qin Zhao, sizing him up. They wanted to see what was up with this scary president that West had mentioned. Young man, don't listen to this old asterisk Shoals nonsense. He's been ruining my reputation everywhere. I've always insisted on using love to manage the association. Qin Zhao said seriously. They all deserve to die, but the law can't punish them. That's why I locked them here to prevent them from causing trouble when they get out. If you don't believe me, ask them. Henry, come here. Tell me, am I right? Henry had his head buried in his breakfast. Hearing Chun Zhao's words, he forced a smile. Yes, we're all asterisk holes. The president gave us a new life and a chance to turn over a new leaf. If Henry's answer was the opposite of Chun Zhao's, he would probably have a close encounter with a meat grinder tonight. Oh, I heard that you're students from Caltech, right? Yes. I'm a professor at UCLA. You can call me Chin. University professor? No one expected Chen Zhao to be a university professor. You can visit my school when you have time. UCLA's academic ranking is much lower than Caltech, Griffin said. There's nothing to visit. Everyone's expression froze. Griffin was a firm supporter of his school. He'd always been hostile and belittling other schools. West, I suspect that he's a spy sent by the Demon Army. I think we need to torture and interrogate him. I hope to get the detailed plan of the Demon Army from him before sunset. No one expected Qin Zhao, who had been so approachable a moment ago, to become a completely different person in the next moment. Chapter 1233. Even Griffin himself was dumbfounded. He defended the president with just one sentence. I'm not going to stay here forever, right? After breakfast, the four wandered around the HQ. It didn't look like a mysterious or evil place. They saw several children walking around and playing. Of course, there were also many animals here. Many of them were strangely big too. The wind was especially strong today, and the sky was getting darker. Dark clouds seemed to have gathered above the HQ. The low-pressure air was suffocating. Prague saw that pain had returned with another demon. Subconsciously, she didn't think that this was an evil organization. Prague found West again. Mr. West, when can we leave? Didn't I tell you? West said, you have to get the president's permission to leave tomorrow or never. But your president is sleeping by the lake right now. Is he always so free? What do you think he's going to do? But if he doesn't let us leave, he'll at least interrogate us, right? Do you know how he usually interrogates people? How? Do you see the meat grinder beside the HQ? Yes. Our guild leader usually puts people in there for interrogation. Prague's face paled instantly. Just then, the HQ's alarm rang. Immediately after, Prague saw many members that he had seen before and some that he had never seen before running out from all directions. What happened? Prague was alarmed. Little Jerlin rode White Ma and ran to West. Uncle West, is there a bad guy? Jerlin wants to beat the bad guys with you. West was speechless as he watched Qin Zhao walk over from the lake. Jerlin, you're still too young. When you grow up, you can beat the bad guys with us. Jerlin isn't young anymore. She's already grown up. White Ma will help me beat the bad guys. Just then, Qin Zhao walked over and picked up Jerlin from White Ma. Good girl, stay with Daddy. President, how's the situation? The detectors around the area have detected that a large number of demons have touched the sensors. A large number of demons have also appeared on the surveillance screen, West said. Oh, you guys go ahead, Qin Zhao said, yawning. I'll take a nap. Last night, Jerlin woke up in the middle of the night, and I couldn't sleep well. Everyone else didn't mind. They hoped that they could handle such a situation by themselves. If Chun Zhao attacked, they would really have nothing to do with it. Prague, on the other hand, was speechless. This guild leader was too irresponsible. Old man, what are you doing? Put the gun down. It's none of your business here. Just watch the door for me. Chun Zhao looked at Adu's speechless. Guild leader, I have experience as well. Okay. Stop causing trouble. Chun Zhao waved his hand and had Jolig take the modified gun from Adu's hands. This old man was restless. With his body, he didn't want to break here. Dad, let me go, Jerlin said expectantly. I can protect Grandpa Adu's. Jerlin, don't cause trouble. Phalai came out and stared at Jerlin sternly. On the other hand, Jerlin's face was filled with grievance and indignation. She looked at Qin Zhao pitifully, hoping that he would speak up for her. Unfortunately, Qin Zhao wished that Feilai would come out and restrain Zhurlin. Just then, the dark clouds in the sky slowly spun like a vortex. All sorts of flashing demon eyes appeared in the forest around the headquarters. There was no need for surveillance and sensors now. Everyone could already see the demons approaching. Qin Zhao and Feilai carried Zhurlin into the front hall. Prague was speechless. This guild leader was too irresponsible. By then, the battle outside had already started. Cows held a remote control. Immediately, there were loud explosions in the forest. Hundreds of remote-controlled bombs were detonated. This was a battle of offense and defense. As the defending side, the supernatural organization naturally had to use the terrain to their advantage. The supernatural organization wasn't small, but it only had a headquarters that was less than 6 acres. Thus, remote-controlled mines were great defensive weapons. Gage had the hammer in her hand. She was more nervous than the others. For one, she was weak. For another, she didn't have much battle experience. Gage looked at Dongya Tianchi. Japanese, aren't you nervous? I'm a samurai. Samurai are fearless. Dongya Tianchi just didn't look nervous. What a joke. What era was it now? There were no proper samurai. Amidst the explosion, 5 huge demons rushed out and attacked the headquarters. The 5 demons were all more than 5 meters long. They looked different, but they were all burning with flames. They were demons that liked to play with fire. The high temperature of the explosion didn't pose much threat to them. Plus, they were huge, so the shockwave from the explosion didn't have much effect on them. Giselle was surrounded by a dozen metal balls. Under her control, one of the metal balls shot toward a pig-headed demon first. The metal ball landed on the pig-headed demon's body. Immediately, it extended a hook and latched onto the demon's body. The next moment, the metal ball exploded. The liquid nitrogen inside also spread out, freezing the demon into a popsicle. Another metal ball shot out at high speed and pierced through the frozen demon. The demon's body disintegrated instantly, turning into pieces of frozen meat. Jolig and Padaloo immediately threw a new metal ball to Giselle. Amazing, Gage exclaimed. If it were her, she probably wouldn't be able to finish off one in 10 minutes. West pointed between his eyebrows. Slow field. Instantly, the remaining 4 demons stopped moving. The members of the Lightning Squad held their guns and fired wildly at the 4 demons who had stopped in their tracks. The demons had thick skin and flesh, but they couldn't withstand the Lightning team's storm-like attacks. In less than a minute, the demons were riddled with holes. Meanwhile, in the headquarters, Feilai looked at Qin Zhao speechlessly, because Qin Zhao was really asleep. Zhurlin and Evans were leaning against the window, watching the intense battle outside. Amazing, amazing. Sister Giselle is amazing. Uncle Klaus and the others are amazing too. Chapter 1234. The battle unfolded like a wildfire. For a moment, the demons couldn't enter the headquarters. The headquarters of the supernatural organization didn't have walls or walls. However, the members of the supernatural organization were all very powerful. Gaia, Norma, and Helis were the top fighters in the organization. The 3 of them hadn't made a move yet. The members of the organization could still hold on. It wasn't time for them to attack yet. Suddenly, Qin Zhao opened his eyes, stood up, and looked outside. It was just noon, but all of Los Angeles was shrouded in dark clouds. It was like the end of the world. The headquarters of the association was as dark as 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. Just then, a figure that wasn't too tall blended in among the ordinary demons and attacked the headquarters. No one noticed the figure yet. The figure went straight for Gage. Gage was swinging his hammer in a hand-to-hand fight with a demon. Suddenly, she felt a wave of chilliness attack her. Gage subconsciously swung the hammer in a circle. A black figure was hit by the hammer behind him, but when the hammer hit the black figure, it didn't defeat the figure. Instead, the hammer bounced back. Getchela felt as if his hammer was hitting a giant piece of rubber. He almost lost control of the hammer and staggered back a few steps. The black figure attacked Gage. It held a dagger with both hands and was about to slit Gage's throat. Suddenly, a hand appeared behind Gage and pulled him back, avoiding the fate of having his throat slit. Gage looked back. It was Helis, corpse demon. Gage looked at Helis and realized that she'd joined the battle too. The black figure wanted to continue attacking Gage, but the corpse demon blocked the attack. With a swing of its giant fist, the black figure was sent flying. But then, another dozen black figures entered the battle at the same time. Helis, those black figures shouldn't be ordinary demons, Gaia reminded. They should be high-level demons in the demon army. Yes, I know. Helis nodded. Mr. West, please cooperate with me. West immediately understood Helis' intention and cast the field of slowness. Wester was no longer the person in the past, a piece of trash who could cripple himself with a slow domain. His strength had soared, and his magic power had also improved greatly, especially since he knew how to quickly recover his magic power. More than 10 black shadows were engulfed by West's slow field. The 12 undead brothers and sisters of Helis attacked at the same time. Countless spells poured out. It covered an area of more than 20 meters. Suddenly, something in the sky approached the headquarters from a distance in the forest. The one in the lead was huge, and there were smaller ones behind him. Everyone finally saw that those things were a group of bird monsters. The largest bird monster had a wingspan of about 15 meters, while the other bird monsters were about 7 or 8 meters in size. Gaia finally picked up the greatsword. When she grasped the hilt, the greatsword burst into flames. Gaia's figure moved, leaping into the air. In an instant, the flaming sword slashed towards the largest bird monster. Hiss, the leader of the bird monsters, was beheaded. Gaia used the falling corpse of the bird monster to jump more than 10 meters in the air and slashed again. Gaia was already very familiar with this kind of fighting style. Gazing at Gaia in the air, Jinkira's eyes were filled with admiration. When could he reach Gaia's level? However, the surrounding demons didn't give her too much time to be distracted. Jinkira could only take a look at the sky. Actually, Helis and Norma weren't weaker than Gaia. However, Gaia's style was the most similar to Jinkira's, which was why Jinkira respected her the most. Prague, Griffin, Felix, and Zovis were all shocked by the battle. They felt like they'd entered a mythical battlefield. Feilai looked at Chen Zhao. When Chen Zhao woke up, she thought he was going to attack. In the end, Chen Zhao just stood at the door and didn't do anything. At 2 or 3 in the afternoon, the battle suddenly stopped. The demons didn't attack anymore. Everyone was very tired now. Moreover, they all had some injuries on their bodies. Looking at his subordinates, Chen Zhao was exhausted. West was right. The association did need a doctor, he thought. Right now, he could only rely on Alice to heal everyone with her inexperienced healing spells. The evil spirits and slaves arranged food so that everyone could recover as much as possible. Everyone knew that the previous battle was just an appetizer. It was just a probing attack from the demon army. The demon army wanted to wear out the weaker demons and the combat power of the association members at the same time. Their goal had clearly been achieved. The association didn't lose anyone, but their combat power was obviously much lower. The truly powerful devils would wait until the sun went down before launching their attacks. President, the demons will definitely attack more fiercely at night. Then, Chen Zhao waved his hand. I know. Chen Zhao had been sleeping, but he sensed Kong Mosa's aura. He'd just approached the headquarters, so he woke up. But Kong Mosa didn't attack, so Chen Zhao didn't attack. Dad, when are we going to beat the bad guys? Jerlin looked at Chen Zhao expectantly. Chen Zhao rubbed Jerlin's hair. He hadn't taught her anything, but she was so violent. This wasn't good. How was she going to get married in the future? No, if she got married in the future, his heart would ache. It was better to let her be more violent. Jerlin slapped Chen Zhao's hand away angrily and stared at him with her little nose up. Chen Zhao walked out of the headquarters and stood in an empty space filled with demon corpses. Chen Zhao's lips curled into a smile. Just then, Jinkira walked over. "President, should we make a strategic retreat? The main force of the demons has yet to take action, but our combat strength has already decreased by more than half. At night, the strength of the demon army will become stronger, but we will become weaker. The current situation is really not suitable to continue fighting." Chen Zhao glanced at Jinkira. "Where do you think we should retreat to? Or how should we retreat? Do you think the demon army that surrounded us will let us go? But staying here is just waiting for death. I think we should find a weak point and break out." Chapter 1235. Mr. West, I think we should retreat now. Seeing that Chen Zhao couldn't get through, Gage ran to find West. "Retreat? Why? Don't you think we have no chance of winning?" "I don't think so," West said coolly. "Before the president gives the order, neither I nor anyone else will retreat. You can leave, but after you leave, you won't be a member anymore." The union didn't say that leaving meant fighting to the death. No one had the time. Gage's face was filled with helplessness. All of them seemed to be very obedient to Chen Zhao's orders. As long as Chen Zhao didn't speak, no one would support her. She really didn't understand how that man had such prestige. From the first day she joined the union, Chen Zhao had been a bit off. Moreover, he'd been in the union the shortest. Usually he wouldn't come to the union at all. Even during the big events of the society, Chen Zhao always hid in the back. For example, when Pamela turned into a banshee, Chen Zhao had been a spectator. He hadn't done anything at all. She really didn't understand how Chen Zhao could manage and command the members. Gage was a bit disappointed. She didn't want to die like this, but she didn't want to be a deserter either. She had the bloodline of a berserker, even though she'd been one for the past 20 years. She'd always lived as a normal person. She'd come into contact with people from the spiritual world, but not much. She had even less battle experience. She had the bloodline of a berserker and the pride of a berserker. The most shameful thing for a warrior wasn't to die in battle, but to run away. When everyone else was facing the enemy, she chose to abandon her comrades. Not only did she abandon her comrades, but she also abandoned her bloodline. A proud berserker wouldn't allow such a thing. Just then, the sky started to darken. If there was still a sliver of light during the day when dark clouds covered the sky, it was truly dark now. There wasn't a sliver of light outside the headquarters. Just then, Chen Zhao walked out of the headquarters. When the others saw Chen Zhao, they all stood up. When Helis looked at Chen Zhao, her eyes were filled with respect. "President, President." When Chen Zhao walked past everyone, they would greet him. Chen Zhao walked to the door of the headquarters and looked at the dark forest before him. Chen Zhao could sense that there were countless demons hiding in the darkness. "It's about time. Master, time's up." Sibylla stood respectfully next to Kong Mosa. Kong Mosa stood where he was and did not move all day. He only opened his eyes when he launched the attack and when he gave the order to stop the attack. Sibylla waited for Kong Mosa's reply, but after waiting for 5 minutes, there was no response. 10 minutes later, there was still no response. After waiting for 20 minutes, Kong Mosa finally opened his eyes. "All out attack, you and all of you attack," Kong Mosa said. Besides Sibylla, there were 3 other demons around Kong Mosa. Sibylla had accepted Kans Mosa's reward. She had now replaced Doan Tucker as the great commander of the demon army. At the same time, he found another powerful demon in the demon army to replace Bostil. The other 2 were the veteran commanders, Eden and Arrow. Arrow was the most unwilling of the 4 great commanders. If Kong Mosa had not been revived, she would not have obeyed the order to get involved in this mess. Kong Mosa also walked toward the headquarters. After receiving Kong Mosa's order, the other demons swept toward the headquarters like a wave. Everyone stared at Chen Zhao's back. Jinkira also stared at him. She did not understand what he was doing. Why was he standing there? Was he looking to die? If the demon army launched an all-out attack now, he would not even know how he died. Suddenly, there was a series of barks in the darkness. Then a group of demon dogs charged out of the darkness. These weren't demons. They were different from hellhounds. Hellhounds were man-made demons, while demon dogs were man-made undead. They were creatures summoned by necromancers. These demon dogs were extremely large and ferocious like tigers. They pounced at Qin Zhao. At the same time, a black shadow appeared beside Qin Zhao. Bostil had appeared. Jinkira's eyes widened. So big. Bostil was much bigger than these demon dogs. Was this his trump card? Gatella thought to himself. Bostil was indeed very strong. With a swipe of his claws, he killed all the demon dogs in a few moves. Just then, Sibylla's voice came from the darkness. How sad, Bostil. You've become someone else's puppet. Bostil had no consciousness. He only stared emotionlessly at the demon army that had appeared in the darkness and the 4 great commanders, led by Sibylla. Sibylla could sense the dead members of the demon army. She could also sense that Bostil was dead, now that he had reappeared in a different form. She could easily guess that Bostil had become someone else's puppet. The new commander, Beast King Rainster, roared at Bostil. Bostil roared at Rainster as well. Rainster was no smaller than Bostil, and his voice was not soft either. Rainster charged forward first, pouncing at Bostil. The 2 demons fought. It was hard to tell who would win in a short time. Rainster had originally been Bostil's subordinate. He was indeed weaker than Bostil, but ever since Kong Mosa had been revived, he'd received Kong Mosa's rewards. His power had increased greatly. Jinkira watched anxiously from the back. Qin Zhao's trump card was being held back by the other demons. Qin Zhao should be in danger, but Gaia and the others didn't seem to want help at all. Had they disliked Qin Zhao and wanted to use this chance to get rid of him? Jinkira's thoughts kept running wild. Sibylla, is this the guy who obstructed your plan many times? Eden asked. He's very strong, Sibylla said. She'd also received Kong Mosa's power. Her power was much greater than before, but now that she faced Qin Zhao again, she still didn't have any confidence. Then let me see just how powerful he is. Eden's figure suddenly blurred, splitting into hundreds of doppelgangers. Everyone in the headquarters was shocked by Eden's cloning technique. There were too many of them. Was this guy Kong Mosa? Chapter 1236. But the next moment, Qin Zhao suddenly reached out and grabbed an Eden. Caught by Qin Zhao, Eden struggled with all his might. At the same time, the clones around him started attacking Qin Zhao crazily. However, these attacks were all fake. They were all illusions and didn't cause any actual damage. Everyone came to a sudden realization when they saw this result. It wasn't a real cloning technique, but an illusion. Like the doppelganger technique, Mo Air was able to continuously create doppelgangers. Or someone like Qin Zhao, who could create 12 clones at once. This was called the cloning technique. But illusions didn't have any attack power. How do you know I'm the real one? Eden roared as he struggled. Because you have bad breath, Qin Zhao said. Eden wasn't tall. Qin Zhao lifted him up with one arm and his legs couldn't reach the ground. Everyone heard a crisp sound. Eden's neck was broken. Sibylla and Arrow's expressions didn't look good. Eden wasn't good at direct attacks, but he was still one of the 4 commanders. But now, Qin Zhao had killed him so easily. They couldn't accept this result. Qin Zhao crooked his finger. His posture was full of provocation. Arrow, you go first, Sibylla said in a commanding tone. Why? I'm giving orders on behalf of my master. Do you have any objections? Arrow stared at Qin Zhao with a pale face. But just then, Qin Zhao lifted his arm. The next moment, a beam of light shot out from Qin Zhao's palm. The beam of light was so fast that Arrow didn't even have time to react. The beam of light directly penetrated her body, and it continued to spread to the back. Demon cannon. Wherever it passed, all the demons were instantly annihilated. Sibylla's limbs were cold. This man was even scarier than before. Arrow didn't even have a chance to attack. She was also killed instantly. Gatella also opened her mouth wide. Disbelief was written all over her face. So powerful. This was the first time she'd seen Qin Zhao attack. Just then, Kong Mosa's voice sounded from behind Sibylla. "Go find the second host. Leave him to me." "Yes, master." Sibylla's figure flashed and disappeared. Kong Mosa slowly walked out of the forest and revealed his real body. He had a pair of horns on his head and his chest was exposed. His skin was black and he held a steel fork in his hand. His feet were like sheep's hooves. "Human, you shouldn't have blocked my path. Who do you think you are?" Kong Mosa was not tall, but the aura he exuded made everyone feel as if they had fallen into a nightmare. It was too terrifying. Could humans really become enemies with such a monster? Even Blackies who worshipped Chen Zhao a lot had some doubts. This demon was much stronger than his mother. Kong Mosa threw his trident at Chen Zhao with terrifying power. It was as if hundreds of demons were attacking Chen Zhao at the same time. Bang! The moment Chen Zhao touched the pitchfork, he released all his power. A terrifying shockwave spread out from Chen Zhao. All the association members, standing at the back, were sent flying. Everyone looked at Chen Zhao in disbelief. They hadn't expected Kong Mosa to be so powerful. Even though they were dozens of meters away, they could still feel the terrifying shockwave. How could Chen Zhao, who was the first to bear the brunt, escape? The smoke gradually dissipated. Chen Zhao stood where he was, without a single injury. Everyone was shocked again. They hadn't expected Chen Zhao to receive the attack and scathe from such a terrifying shockwave. Chen Zhao grabbed the pitchfork, but it started trembling as if it wanted to break free from Chen Zhao's grasp. "Bastard, you don't want to be controlled by me? In that case, don't even think about getting it." Chen Zhao immediately controlled the mouth of Gluttony and bit down on the pitchfork. The pitchfork was clearly not an ordinary weapon. The mouth of Gluttony actually couldn't bite it into pieces immediately. The pitchfork seemed to have its own consciousness. Kong Mosa wouldn't give Chen Zhao time to destroy his weapon either. Two destructive beams shot out from Kong Mosa's demon horns. Chen Zhao moved and dodged Kong Mosa's attack. Kong Mosa took the chance to walk forward and snatch the pitchfork from Chen Zhao's hand. Everyone watched the battle between Chen Zhao and Kong Mosa. They couldn't interfere at all. It wasn't just them. Even Kong Mosa's demon army couldn't get close to the center of the battlefield. Chen Zhao and Kong Mosa were both too powerful. Everyone else was fundamentally different from them. Although the battle between the two of them was not earth-shattering, if they were to continue fighting, the headquarters might really be destroyed by them. Disbelief was written all over Gage's face. Was this Chen Zhao's true strength? The more Kong Mosa fought, the more shocked he became, because Chen Zhao really scared him. This human hadn't used his full strength yet. He couldn't continue like this. He had to end the battle as soon as possible. Kong Mosa was one of them and knew his own strength. Chen Zhao's various performances had already shown that Chen Zhao was on the same level as him. Kong Mosa's demon territory wasn't obtained through proper means. It was an opportunistic method. To put it bluntly, it was using external forces to temporarily obtain this kind of power. But Chen Zhao had truly reached this level. If they continued fighting, he would enter a weakened period prematurely. If he couldn't defeat Chen Zhao now, when he entered a weakened period, his chances of winning would be even lower. "Attack! Attack!" Kong Mosa ordered his demon army to attack. A smile appeared on Chen Zhao's face. Suddenly, he pushed Kong Mosa away. Kent Mosa suddenly had a bad feeling. Return to one. Chen Zhao's aura suddenly exploded. At the same time, he took out a remote control. This remote control was Chen Zhao's true trump card. Jalig saw the remote control in Qin Zhao's hand and recognized it as the one he and Qin Zhao had made after working for an entire night. Of course, Qin Zhao didn't want him to make the remote control, but the things it controlled. In fact, they were just jars, and they were all aluminum jars. The remote control could open the aluminum jars directly. Jalig didn't know what the aluminum jars were for. The moment Qin Zhao pressed the remote control, a holy aura emanated from the forest. Qin Zhao had buried thousands of angelic crystals in the forest. If it was just 1 or 2 angelic crystals, it might not affect the demon army. But the holy power produced by thousands of angelic crystals would cause fatal damage to the demon army. Chapter 1237. Retreat. Retreat. Kong Mosa didn't know what Qin Zhao had done, but he could feel the holy power pervading the area within several kilometers of the supernatural organization. This holy power didn't just affect the demon army. Even Agar's, one of the 72 demon gods, was affected. Even Qin Zhao's pure-blooded demon subordinates were affected. Kong Mosa was terrified. He hadn't expected Qin Zhao to have such a weapon. But why didn't Qin Zhao use it earlier? Why did he only use it now? This was something he didn't understand. Actually, thousands of angelic crystals seemed like a lot. But when they were scattered around the headquarters, they realized that there weren't that many. So, Qin Zhao could only use the angelic crystals to draw a line around the headquarters. Of course, this line wasn't just a line of defense. It was also a line of obstruction. Qin Zhao's ultimate goal was to destroy the demon army, not to play with them. Let them think that the supernatural organization could come and go as they pleased. They could come and go as they pleased. So, Qin Zhao had to wait until the entire demon army stepped into the line before opening the aluminum cans. Suddenly, Qin Zhao pounced at Kong Mosa. Kong Mosa was already somewhat suppressed at the moment, but Qin Zhao didn't weaken. Instead, he became stronger. He was so strong that Kong Mosa couldn't block it. He couldn't even block it once. This was the true power of a demon. Qin Zhao pressed Kong Mosa to the ground and dragged him a dozen meters. Kants Mosa tried to resist, but Qin Zhao was too strong. He couldn't move Qin Zhao at all. Do you know how big the difference between us is? Theoretically, Kong Mosa and Qin Zhao were on the same level, but there was still a gap between them that Kong Mosa couldn't close no matter how hard he tried. That was a spell or magic that belonged solely to him. Qin Zhao had returned to one. He'd created it himself. Because Qin Zhao had entered a state of emptiness, he could comprehend it himself and create his own spell. But Kong Mosa didn't. He didn't have his own magic. The principle of 10,000 techniques returned to one could be said to be simple, but it could also be said to be difficult. But no one else could copy it. Kong Mosa also had a demon, but he didn't have his own comprehension. Everyone in the association had looks of disbelief on their faces. They had thought that there would be an even more intense battle between Qin Zhao and Kong Mosa. However, the situation seemed to have changed in an instant. Just a moment ago, they were evenly matched. The next moment, Qin Zhao crushed Kong Mosa with absolute power. Qin Zhao broke Kong Mosa's limbs and lifted him up. Qin Zhao wanted to devour Kong Mosa's demon territory. Red, gold, and black magic arrays appeared around Qin Zhao. At the same time, they enveloped Kong Mosa. "What are you going to do?" Kong Mosa was horrified to find that his strength was constantly dropping. No, it wasn't his original power. It was his demonic domain that was disappearing. "You're a guest. It's not good if you don't leave something as a gift, right?" Qin Zhao smiled faintly. "Let me go, you devil. Let me go." Everyone was speechless. They wondered what it would feel like to be called a demon by a demon. However, Qin Zhao's previous actions could indeed be called a demon. Just then, Rupert suddenly let out a cry of surprise. Everyone turned around and saw Sibylla appear behind Rupert. At the same time, she pressed her hand against Rupert's neck. "Let go of my master." Sibylla had wanted to attack when she was more confident, but she didn't expect Chen Zhao to be so terrifying. He'd actually suppressed Kong Mosa to this extent. If she didn't attack now, Kong Mosa might very well lose his life. Sibylla, good job. Kong Mosa's spirit was lifted, and he shouted happily, "Let me go at once, or that little girl will die." Holding Kong Mosa, a smile appeared on Chen Zhao's face. "You don't really think this plan will work, do you?" Sibylla cursed under her breath. If she were in Rupert's shoes, she would definitely be on her guard against her, too. Rupert turned her head with a smile. Indeed, before the battle, Chen Zhao had made preparations for her. If Chen Zhao lost, she would be the last chance to turn the tables. Rupert still had a perfect angelic crystal on her. Before, it had been wrapped in tinfoil. After Sibylla ambushed her, she secretly opened the tinfoil. Instantly, a holy aura exploded from Rupert's body. Sibylla had just been transformed by Kong Mosa. Now, she was a pure demon like the other members of the demon army. When she came into contact with the holy aura, it was like the ice in the North Pole being baked by the sun in the Sahara Desert. Sibylla didn't even have the ability to use a teleportation spell to escape. If it was Kong Mosa, he could barely escape from Rupert. But Sibylla couldn't do it at all. She wasn't even an intermediate demon. Smoke rose from her skin. Rupert turned around and kicked Sibylla to the ground, holding the perfect angelic crystal in her hand. "Go away, go away. Rupert, I was wrong. For the sake of me and your teacher, please let me go." "Ms. Sibylla, this isn't the first time you've lied to me." Smiling, Rupert slowly approached Sibylla with the perfect angelic crystal. To Sibylla, this was a source of radiation. "Also, do you think I have the right to decide your fate? I can teach you how to control the soul in your body." Rupert had to admit that Sibylla's suggestion was very tempting. But being tempted was one thing. More importantly, Chen Zhao didn't care whether he was tempted or not. Rupert didn't think that she could go against Chen Zhao just because she controlled 1/3 of Kong Mosa's soul. This time, she'd truly witnessed Chen Zhao's scariest side. Legendary demons weren't as scary as Chen Zhao. After Kong Mosa's demon territory was taken away, Chen Zhao could feel that he was becoming stronger. The demon territory and his small world supported each other. But while Kong Mosa's demon territory belonged to him, there was a condition for using it. That was he needed the demon army. If he killed them all, then Kong Mosa's demon territory would also be destroyed. Chapter 1238. These demons were all controlled by the demonic territory. They couldn't resist Chen Zhao's orders. Plus, their master was still in Chen Zhao's hands. But it seemed that Kong Mosa was in a terrible state. He was unbelievably weak. "Those who are willing to be sealed, stand on the left," Chen Zhao said. "Those who don't can die." All the demons looked at each other. Whether it was being sealed or dying, neither was a good choice. Moreover, most of them were arrogant and unruly. They even felt that if they fought head-on, they might have a chance of winning. Gaia and the others were also prepared. As soon as Chen Zhao gave the order, they would start a massacre. But there were only a few dozen demons who chose to continue. The others all chose to retreat and stood on the right. Chen Zhao raised his right arm. Since the demons had chosen to fight, they were naturally quite strong. Demon cannon. A chasm was left in the empty space in front of the headquarters. There was nothing but some debris in the chasm. Everyone and all the demons stared at Chen Zhao. The place was silent. The demons who had chosen to be sealed all broke out in a cold sweat. Their faces were drained of blood from fear. Gakira was frightened too. At this moment, she finally understood why Chen Zhao had such high prestige in the supernatural organization. Why no one had wavered before Chen Zhao gave the order. Even though Gaia and the others had fought so fiercely during the day, even though their stamina and magic power had been depleted by more than half, they still didn't retreat. This was because Chen Zhao hadn't really attacked yet. As long as Chen Zhao was here, the outcome was still unknown. Chen Zhao secretly felt that it was a pity. He had killed so many powerful demons again. The demonic territory he'd taken from Kong Mosa was much weaker now. But to Chen Zhao, the demonic territory wasn't very useful to him. Moreover, he couldn't bring a large group of demons everywhere. In the end, the demon army would at most stay in the headquarters. If enemies attacked the organization again, he would have more choices. "President, it won't be easy to seal so many demons," Wes said, walking up. "Will be a disaster if we let them out," Qin Zhao said. "Then kill them all." The demons thought that they had escaped, but when they heard Chen Zhao's words, they peed their pants in fear. "President, how about this? Let's manage them the same way as Lady Pamela's evil spirit group. We'll just seal some of the troublemakers, and the more docile demons will temporarily stay in the headquarters and work for us." What was West's greatest wish? The powerful supernatural organization. Now, there was such an opportunity in front of him. There were so many demons. If they could tame them all, it would be a huge boost for the supernatural organization. "Write me a report on how to deal with them," Qin Zhao said. Jerlin had already leaped to his feet. "Dad, you're the best." Chen Zhao was still carrying Kong Mosa, so it was really inconvenient for him to carry Jerlin. Gaia rushed up and took little Jerlin away. Qin Zhao squeezed hard and strangled Kong Mosa to death. In any case, there was no point in keeping this fellow. Qin Zhao would never let an enemy live, especially one that was useless to him. However, things were not over yet. Everyone would be busy tonight. Take Halle's, for example. After the battle, Halle's wandered among the demon corpses. Others didn't want to go near the corpses, but it was a rare treasure for Halle's. She wanted to find suitable corpses to use as a medium for her necromancy. Another example would be Kira and Dongya Tianxi. Both of them were collecting demon blood, skin, and bones. These were all good forging materials or magic materials. Jaleg and Padalu went to collect the angelic crystals around them. Angelic crystals were indeed good for defense against demons, but they were also a huge threat to the evil spirit group. Qin Zhao didn't let Pamela and the other evil spirits participate in the battle tonight because he wanted to use the angelic crystals. Also, if the association wanted to control these demons in the future, they couldn't let the angelic crystals continue to be scattered outside. Plus, Agar's was a demon too. She couldn't stand the dense, holy power covering the ground. Of course, to the people of the association, everything was fine now that the battle was over. "Why haven't you scrammed yet?" Chen Zhao looked at the cowering Prague and the others. Prague and the others were speechless. "Without your permission, would we dare to leave? You're a demon king." Lit Grove walked up and threatened them. "Oh, if you dare to tell anyone about my teacher and what happened here, I promise you and your families won't live for more than 3 days." The 4 of them turned pale with fright. Qin Zhao saw that Lit Grove was holding a very thick fong. It was still stained with blood. "Why are you holding this fong?" "Teacher, this is the fong of the first demon I killed. It's my trophy." Lit Grove was very excited and proud. He planned to make the fong into a pendant. When he was old in the future, he would give this pendant to his grandson and tell him about his heroic deeds in the past. "Oh, you can kill a demon too?" Chen Zhao didn't expect this. Lit Grove's awakened ability was to see through weaknesses, but his body was only slightly stronger than a normal person's. He didn't expect that he could actually kill a demon. "Teacher, I've entered the Tower of Trials more than 20 times, Lit Grove said. Ritter Grove felt that he had to show off his abilities to Qin Zhao. Of course, he wasn't so naive to think that he could go against Qin Zhao. He just wanted to prove that he wasn't as useless as Chen Zhao thought. Today was too exciting for him. Lit Grove liked this kind of atmosphere. He hoped that next time something like this happened, Chen Zhao would bring him along. "Oh, did you ask for leave today?" "Fine, I was just joking with you. Since you did so well today, you can rest for a few days." Then, Chen Zhao ignored everyone else and went to play with Jerlin. It wasn't too late yet, but Jerlin didn't want to sleep yet. Chapter 1239. Mr. West, why do you have to do this? Hellies looked at West, who was hung upside down in front of the headquarters. Last night, West had caused a huge death. He'd knocked on Qin Zhao's door in the middle of the night. Then, the people who hadn't slept and were still working heard Jerlin's cries from Qin Zhao's room. Then, they saw Qin Zhao angrily drag West and hang him at the door. West had begged many people, but no one helped him. It was West's fault for causing trouble. They didn't want to get on Qin Zhao's bad side. In the morning, Qin Zhao went to West with a dark expression. Why did you find me last night? President put me down first. I don't dare to do it again. After West was put on the ground, he couldn't even stand up. His feet were already numb. Tell me, what's the matter? President, I've thought of a solution. Take a look. Qin Zhao took West's report. West had thought about it for an entire night. It was a proposal to deal with the demons. First of all, those who committed crimes would be directly sealed. There was nothing much to say about this. Leaving them in the headquarters would only bring trouble. Secondly, some demons with better moral conduct and obedience would stay in the headquarters for the time being. They'd work for them for a few years, and then decide whether to keep them or not. West had also made a very detailed plan. In fact, some of these demons had already integrated into human society. But since they'd participated in the attack on the supernatural organization, they couldn't just say that they weren't willing to be released, right? That way, there would definitely be more enemies attacking in the future. The organization had to maintain enough deterrence. Moreover, they needed some manpower too. For example, some construction projects. These demons were good manpower, as long as Qin Zhao could suppress them. West didn't think there was anything wrong with using these demons as laborers. Want to reject? Sure, go talk to Qin Zhao. See if Qin Zhao would agree. Just then, Klaus ran over. Judging from his face, he hadn't slept at all. President, Klaus went straight to the point. President, we want a few demons. You? Demons? Qin Zhao looked at Klaus and the others. What do you want? Be our helpers and mounts. We chose a few demons and made contact with them. They were willing to obey us, Klaus said. Then we asked Jalig and Padalu to help us design a collar that can be used to restrain demons. The condition is 10 years. Qin Zhao thought for a moment. Okay, go talk to them yourselves. In fact, there weren't many demons that were suitable to be Klaus's mounts. This was because most of these demons were in the form of beasts or birds and were considered low-level demons. At the start of the war, most of them had been killed by the people of the association. There weren't many left. It was probably only enough to arm Klaus's lightning squad. It was obviously impossible to equip every member of the association with a demonic mount. Of course, if they were willing to sit on the shoulders or head of the humanoid devil, that would be a different story. The arrival of these demons did not change anything for the association. At least, everything was normal. However, before these demons were completely organized and managed, Qin Zhao still had to stay here. The evil demon army had indeed brought some combat power to the association. However, it was a defensive type of combat power. In other words, when enemies of the same kind attacked, they could be useful. But bring them out? It was impossible. A group of demons could cause chaos in Los Angeles just by going out for a stroll, unless they could transform into a human like Thomas Bailey. But after Kong Mosa's resurrection, they had lost the ability to transform. Kong Mosa's resurrection had not only increased their combat power, but the demonic power had also distorted them. However, the demonic power that Kong Mosa had given them would gradually fade, because Kong Mosa was already dead. Therefore, they might be able to regain their past abilities in a few years or decades. If demons wanted to hide in human society, the first thing they had to do was to transform into humans. When they were first released from the seal, it had taken them a long time to integrate into human society. Now, they had to go through this process again. Of course, a large portion of them could not transform into humans in the first place. For example, those in the form of beasts. They wandered in the wild all year round with wild beasts. Some were not affected by the demonic power and could still transform into humans freely. These were the weaker ones, so Kongmos's second demonic power contamination did not affect them too much. Feilai and Jerlin returned to Mirror Lake to live. However, Chen Zhao had another idea. He could use Kongmos's demonic domain to create another exclusive spell. At the moment, Chen Zhao's exclusive spells were 10,000 spells for one demon god cannon and strip that the handsome guy had created for him. Both the 10,000 spells returned to one and the demon god cannon had extremely strong offensive capabilities, which significantly increased one's combat power. Strip, on the other hand, was more special. It could only be used against special enemies and under special circumstances. The increase in combat power was not obvious. Kongmosa had not reached the state of emptiness, so even though he had mastered the demonic domain, he could not comprehend it. However, Chen Zhao had mastered it, so there was no such thing as not being able to create exclusive spells. Chen Zhao named Kongmosa's demonic domain Darkness Descent. Basically, it caused dark clouds to gather and created low-pressure air. The effect was the same as Chen Zhao's small world. It increased one's mana source and sped up mana recovery. The only difference was that Chen Zhao's small world absorbed spiritual energy, while Darkness Descent absorbed the demonic power of the demon army. In terms of visual perception, Darkness Descent was more visually impactful. In reality, it was not very effective. Chen Zhao lifted his hand and pointed at the sky. Darkness Descent started gathering. Dark clouds filled the sky above the headquarters. However, because the demon army had decreased in numbers, the range of Darkness Descent was very limited. With the headquarters as the center, it could cover a radius of 12 square kilometers. It could barely cover the entire headquarters. The Eye of the Thunder on Chen Zhao's arm turned electricity into ions and released them into the air. Chen Zhao discovered that as the ions dispersed, they were completely restricted within the range of Darkness Descent due to the low-pressure air. However, these ions also carried Chen Zhao's magic power, allowing him to clearly grasp every inch of the entire headquarters and every area. Chapter 1240. The people in the association realized that the sky was filled with dark clouds. They all thought that something had happened again, but since Chen Zhao was in the association, they had nothing to fear. Soon, they realized that the dark clouds seemed to be controlled by Chen Zhao. A bolt of lightning struck before Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao looked around, and a smile appeared on his face. Boom! A bolt of lightning struck West's head. Ah, President, I'm being attacked. I'm being attacked. Chen Zhao could accurately grasp the accuracy and power of the attack. Within the association, he could strike whoever he wanted. Chen Zhao released even more ions. They scattered in the air. Everyone's hair stood on end. Just then, Chen Zhao's body floated up slightly. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the sky. A huge pillar of lightning struck down. Of course, this electric current wasn't attacking anyone. Instead, it landed on a shelf nearby. The shelf shattered with a loud bang. This bolt of lightning was already very fatal. Chen Zhao started to control the lightning densely and hit the lake's surface continuously. It was as if there were countless grenades hidden in the lake. They kept exploding and splashing everywhere. At the same time, the fish in the lake were hit until their bellies turned white. Chen Zhao didn't stop until the lightning lasted for more than 10 minutes. It was another exclusive spell. But this spell had a weakness. It wasn't very effective against a single target. If it was a normal person, it could indeed cause a large area of damage. But if it was an enemy at Kongmosa's level, then it would be difficult for the spell to cause fatal damage. Of course, this was a weakness, but the advantage was also very obvious. It covered a large area and consumed very little energy. Chen Zhao could last for a few hours and continuously strike the area with lightning. It wouldn't be a problem even if he plowed the entire area of the headquarters. If there was another large-scale attack like the demon army, Qin Zhao wouldn't have to do so much preparation. As long as this place was struck by lightning for a few hours, everything here would definitely be reduced to ashes. Another advantage was the accuracy of the hit rate, and the control of the power could be done at will. Moreover, after releasing the ions, Qin Zhao could accurately sense the movements of all living beings in the area around the headquarters. The members of the association could also tell that Qin Zhao was experimenting with a new spell. As for the strike on West, it was probably intentional. They also knew that Qin Zhao had very powerful lightning spells. But this time, the magic looked very shocking. "Guild leader, is this your new spell?" Harold stepped forward and asked. "Yes, it's a new spell specially developed for the defense of the headquarters." West rubbed his head and walked over with a sad face. "Guild leader, can you not make such a joke next time?" "I'm still trying. I can't control it well." West wouldn't believe that, judging from Qin Zhao's expression. He'd clearly done it on purpose. "President, what is this spell called?" "Lightning Storm," Qin Zhao said casually. To be honest, neither the Demon God Canon nor the 10,000 techniques returned to one were as useful as the Lightning Tempest. 10,000 spells returned to one was an absolute, single-target spell. The Demon God Canon was a small-area spell. In terms of single-target attacks, it could not compare to 10,000 spells returned to one. Lightning Storm, on the other hand, was a group spell. It was Qin Zhao's favorite type of spell. Unfortunately, this spell could only be used in the headquarters of the association. He wouldn't be able to use it outside of here. Everything was based on Kong Mosa's demonic domain, Darkness Descends. Without Darkness Descends, Qin Zhao couldn't use Lightning Storm. Speaking of which, if Kong Mosa had this spell that day, even if Qin Zhao could win, the headquarters would suffer heavy casualties. Fortunately, Kong Mosa was just a dabbler. However, Qin Zhao was curious about how Kong Mosa had turned humans into demons. Qin Zhao had potions that could turn humans into demons, but they were mixed-blood demons. They wouldn't be like Kong Mosa and turn humans into complete demons. If Kong Mosa had enough time, he could create even more demon armies. Qin Zhao probably wouldn't be able to deal with it as easily as that day. However, he still had to find Kong Mosa's body. Who knew if something would happen to Kong Mosa's body if it was left outside? After this battle, Qin Zhao also realized that the association needed a healer. When the four from Prague returned to school, they heard a piece of news. Their classmate, Jill, had died in a car accident. They immediately thought that this must be the result of the supernatural organization's arrangements. They were sad for Jill's death. However, this also saved them a lot of trouble. After all, if they had to explain it, they wouldn't know how to answer the question about Jill's death. The experience of these 2 days and 2 nights was also extraordinary for them. From their worldview to their outlook on life, they had undergone major changes. In the past, the third and fourth types of contact they'd been pursuing were just interests to them. But suddenly, they realized that what they'd been pursuing actually existed. Moreover, the truth was crueler than they'd guessed. Jill's death and the battle a few days ago were enough to explain everything. Of course, the one who shocked them the most was the Chinese. That scary Chinese. "Honey, I was really worried when you were gone for 2 days. Where did you go? I couldn't get through to you." Prague's smile was slightly forced. He looked at his boyfriend, Peter. "Nothing, just a club activity. Your paranormal society again." Peter had never liked Prague going to the paranormal society. "Yes, your society, Somans, has always liked you. He's been pursuing you." "There's nothing like that. We're just classmates with common interests." Prague explained. "If you mention this again, then let's break up." Fine, I was wrong, Prague. "I won't mention it any more," Peter said quickly. "Come with me to the sea in a few days." "See? Yeah, my friend has a marine exploration team. They're going to explore the Pacific Ocean. Don't you like these weird things?" Maybe you'll encounter something mysterious. Exploration team? Are you sure we can join the exploration team? No problem. I talked to my friend. 2 spots is not a problem. Chapter 1241. On the second day back, Qin Zhao went to hell. This time, it was the handsome guy who summoned him. The magic tide was about to arrive. Of course, it was Qin Zhao's suggestion. It was easy for the handsome guy to summon Qin Zhao. For example, Beelzebub Sophie had to summon Qin Zhao with a magic seal and a token from Qin Zhao. The handsome guy took the token and dragged Qin Zhao to hell. The handsome guy summoned Qin Zhao twice, both times in different places. Handsome, don't you have your own territory? Right now, Qin Zhao and the handsome guy were sitting in a Porsche 918 sports car. Qin Zhao had specially brought this car to hell. However, the 2 sports cars were hovering in the air. The entire hell is mine. Why do I need a territory? It's different. I mean, like a palace. Yes, but one of my clones is sleeping in the palace. Do you have a lot of clones? No, I only have that one. It's in Pantmaninen. Qin Zhao had heard of Pantmaninen. According to legends, it was the center of hell and also Satan's palace. It was also built by Mammon, the king of greed. Pantmaninen also stored all the wealth Mammon had accumulated for Satan. Why do you have to leave a clone there? Because there are always ignorant people who try to covet my treasures. Don't you have subordinates watching for you? Yes, but even my subordinates can't resist my treasures. So I chased all of them out of Pantmaninen. Qin Zhao muttered inwardly. The handsome guy's treasures probably weren't ordinary ones. If you want to go, I can take you there. Forget it. I'm a very vulgar person. I never challenge my desires. Qin Zhao had always been a very worldly person. If there was some treasure that could make demons lose their minds, then he probably wouldn't be able to control himself. Just then, a blue curtain of light extended toward them from the end of the sky. The blue light was dazzling, but Qin Zhao could feel its vastness and surging. Qin Zhao saw a demon fly up from below. This demon was very powerful. At least, he was more powerful than Qin Zhao. Much, much more powerful. When he saw Qin Zhao and the handsome young man, he immediately attacked. The handsome young man simply turned his head and glanced at the devil. The demon screamed and fell from the sky. At this time, more demons rose from the forest below. Some demons were hostile to the flying Porsches. However, no demons attacked the Porsche again. After all, they had seen it in the forest. One of their strongest existences was struck down by the owner of this strange thing. There were more demons, but their attention wasn't on Qin Zhao and the handsome guy. They were also flying forward, flying towards the blue screen of light. What is this? Magic tide. The handsome boy had one hand on the door and the other on the steering wheel. At this time, the blue curtain of light had already spread over. Qin Zhao immediately felt the dense spiritual qi of heaven and earth fill his small world. As the blue curtain of light spread, more and more evil demons rose into the air. Although there were occasional fights, most of the demons were moving in the opposite direction of the blue curtain of light. In the same direction as the sports car, they were also heading in the direction of the blue curtain of light. A large number of demons on the ground were also moving in that direction. Most of the demons on the ground were weaker or couldn't fly. Where are we going? The closer the magic tide is to the source, the denser the elements are. Can't you take me to the source directly? Qin Zhao asked. Or can't you even get close to the source? I can go, but you can't. Just then, Qin Zhao realized that some demons were already falling behind. Like a boat sailing against the current, they were instantly swept away by the rich spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Qin Zhao could already feel the pressure. If he flew on his own, he would probably be sent flying before long. But now the handsome guy was driving him. He didn't need to think about how far he could go. He only needed to think about how much spiritual qi he could withstand. This was similar to the process of diving into deep water. similar to water pressure. But so far, he could still withstand the pressure of the spiritual qi rather easily. Every 13 years, the magic tide sweeps through the entire hell. Every demon has to go against the flow of the magic source. Isn't it the most convenient for demons who live near the magic source? The handsome young man shook his head. Every mana tide, the location of the mana source is different, and the location of the mana source is often littered with corpses. This is because the mana source is a place with the densest elemental energy. Even great lords can't withstand it, so the number of casualties is very high. In hell, it's not uncommon to see countries destroyed because of the mana source. Destroyed countries? Qin Zhao exclaimed. Is there no way to prevent it? Yes, I can. I know where the magic source is, but why should I save them? Fine, he couldn't use the moral standards of the world to ask a demon king. What's the reason for the magic tide? Chen Zhao wasn't a researcher, but he was still quite interested in this. The environment, the handsome guy said. Don't landslides, tsunamis, and volcanic eruptions happen in the human world too? It's the same for the magic tide. It's a 13-year cycle. The magic tide should be a good thing for most demons, unless the magic source appears next to you. It's not entirely a good thing. Some old demons will die suddenly because of it. Chun Zhao more or less understood why the handsome guy had summoned him to hell. When the spiritual qi of heaven and earth reached a certain level, the spiritual qi of heaven and earth would constantly pour into the body like a force-fed duck. The spiritual qi didn't turn into magic directly. Instead, it stayed in the body temporarily. Chen Zhao didn't need to absorb it at all. Techniques or books were useless now. He just gave up resisting and converted it. Your magic isn't the main thing. I can take you deeper and let your body receive the impact of the elements directly. As long as I don't die, it's up to you. The deeper he went, the stronger the pressure was. Even if Chen Zhao went thousands of meters under the sea, he wouldn't feel this much pressure. Qin Zhao could feel his bones changing shape. Even his skin had changed shape.